Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, distinguished amici. I am Darlene Marie Berberabe. The Office of Solicitor General respectfully re-enters its appearance for the respondents in these consolidated petitions. With me today, Your Honors, are Assistant Solicitor General Marisa de la Cruz Galandines, ASG George Ortha, ASG Jennifer Fanjalan Legaspi, ASG Samantha Kamitan, ASG Orlando Polinar, and ASG Mark Perete. Other lawyers of the ASG are in the gallery to provide assistance whenever necessary. Also with us are DBM Assistant Secretary Romeo Matthew Balangkit, the DBM's representative to the Development Budget Coordination Committee, DepDev Undersecretary Joseph Capuno, the DepDev representative to the Investment Coordination Committee. Other representatives from the DBM and from the DepDev are also in the gallery. We are also joined today by representatives from the Bureau of Treasury, Attorney Pablo Evangelista and Attorney Rinzel Ican. Thank you, Your Honors.
For the record, appearing as Amici Curie are Attorney Florencio Bad, Professor of Praxis at Ateneo School of Government, Honorable Franklin M. Drilon, former President of the Senate of the Philippines, Honorable Benjamin E. Jokno, Member Monetary Boards, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and Honorable Jose Maria Clemente Joey S. Salceda, former Representative and Chair, Institute for Risk and Strategic Studies. We now proceed with the continuation of interpellation by Associate Justice Alfredo Benamin Caguiwa.
Thank you, Chief. Can I ask the Solgen, please? Just a few questions. In the last oral arguments, I requested for specific documents relating to the 2024, 2025, and 2026 budgets. Have you submitted those documents?
Your Honor, we have submitted our compliances with regard to the manifestation or compliance dated July 10, 2026. You specifically requested, Your Honor, supporting worksheets, spreadsheets, and background calculations. Those are not part of the submissions, Your Honor. We relayed to our clients, the House and the Senate, and they furnished us with the BICAM report and their joint explanation of the differences in that were effected in the changes during the BICAM meeting, Your Honor.
And is it complete?
So with regard to the spreadsheets, Your Honor, it is not part of the submission, Your Honor. So we forwarded to the Supreme Court the documents that were furnished us by the House and the Senate, Your Honor. We also checked the rules of the House and the Senate, Your Honor, and their rules require that the BICAM committee to issue a BICAM report. The chair of the Appropriations Committee, also of the House, provided the joint explanation of the differences that were determined and decided during the BICAM, and all of those were forwarded to your honors, please.
And this was filed only on July 10?
Yes, Your Honor. There is also a compliance dated July 8. Two compliances were dated July 8, Your Honor. In the compliance dated July 8, we submitted the House and Senate concurrent resolutions regarding the reforms in the budget process and the budget reform bills. In the compliance dated July 8, Your Honor, we submitted the information with regard to the AFP modernization program and the confirmation on the releases for such program, Your Honor.
I'm looking at my notes and I asked for a lot of documents, specifically the specific PAPs under program that were inserted by the BICAM, the respective amounts for each, and then the supporting documents for the specific PAPs, meaning whether they're implementation ready, agency absorptive capacity, consistency with priorities in the framework, inclusion in the annual procurement plan. Did your compliances address these?
Your Honor, when we ask the House and the Senate, there are no records that are available that can be certified, Your Honor, because again, and they referred us to what is required under their rules, and that they are required to come up with a BICAM report,
Okay.
and that is what we submitted.
So in other
to
words,
Your
what you're telling the court is based on what was told to you by them?
Yes, Your Honor, and then we also checked the rules of the Senate and the House so that we can also base our request on their rules of if whether it is.
Let me cut to you. Who in particular did you talk to in the House of Representatives and the Senate?
So my team was corresponding with their counterparts, and I also had a meeting with the Speaker of the House, and the chairperson of the Appropriations Committee, Your Honor. So I had a few meetings with the House leadership, Your Honor.
Okay, is it possible that the court asks the representatives of Congress, both the House and Senate, to file a compliance with the court under oath, attesting to what you are now telling us, that in fact they do not have the records?
Your Honor, so we had a discussion also on it as, and may I share with you, like there are some institutional concerns also for them. They were saying that we have already provided the BICAM report and the joint explanation, which are all that are required under their rules, Your Honor.
Whatever explanations they have for not supplying it, or whether or not, in fact, they don't have copies, all of that can be contained in a manifestation sworn to by them.
Your Honor, I will relay your request.
No, I think this is the directive of the court already.
Yes, Your
We
Honor.
want to know whether or not these documents exist or do not exist, or whether these documents do exist but they don't want to give it to us because of their institutional concerns.
Your Honor, based on our discussion, there are really no documents.
Based on your
Honor.
discussion, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. In the meantime, can I call the DBM? The USEC who argued, who spoke before?
ASEC Angel, Your Honor.
No, that's ASEC Angel. The other one, the USEC, the girl.
Your Honor, Undersecretary Janet Abuel was here in the last orals because ASEC Angel could not appear, and now it is ASEC Angel who is representing DBM.
All right. Can I call ASEC Angel? Tag team ba to? Is this a tag team? One is present, the other one's absent.
Well, I think DBM was sending a representative, Your Honor. Your Honor, should I stand side by side with a DBM representative for now?
No, you can sit down. I just have a few questions for
Thank you, Your
Angel
Honor.
ASEC. ASEC Angel, rather.
Good
I called
morning,
you
Your
Angel ASEC. No, sorry.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Very few questions. Your DBM is the agency responsible for preparing the NEP, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Therefore, you are expected to be familiar with every program, activity, and project listed in the NEP, right?
As an institution, yes, Your Honor. Personally, Your Honor.
When you say as an institution, everybody in the DBM,
We have our scope.
and you're an ASEC there.
There's an assistant secretary and an undersecretary assigned for operations.
Okay.
And that group handles the specific programs, activities, and projects.
All right.
Your Honor.
So, if you simply compare the NEP with the GAB and the GAA, you should be able to identify which PAPs were increased, inserted, reduced, defunded, deleted, or transferred between programmed and unprogrammed at the BICAM level. Am I correct?
What we have access to, Your Honor, for the DBM would be the NEP and the GAA. We are not privy to the specific details of the BICAM, Your Honor.
And what about the GAB?
The GAB is based on the GAB, meaning the enrolled bill, is only provided to us, Your Honor, upon enrollment with the Office of the President. So what the DBM does is compare the NEP with the GAA.
All right, that would be sufficient.
Yes,
and
Your Honor.
Comparing the two, you would be able to identify which PAPs I just listed, right? Which were reduced, defunded, inserted.
What we have, Your Honor, as prepared regularly by the DBM would be a statement of differences, but it would not be on a per PAP level, but it would be dependent on the per agency level or sectoral
But
level.
you can do it on a per PAP level, right?
If necessary, Your Honor, we will.
If instructed by this court, you will.
Of course, Your Honor.
So I'm instructing you now. Is that okay?
Noted, Your Honor.
All right.
We will comply.
In the last hearing, I gave a list of questions to the OSG. Did they supply you with that question?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the DBM be in a position to answer those questions?
We will try, Your Honor.
Try.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you watched Star Wars? That's why you failed.
There is no
You
try.
only try.
Yes, Your Honor. I have watched Star Wars.
Okay, and as Yoda would say, just do it, right?
I will, Your Honor.
Okay, so can you supply me the answers and the documents in that list that I gave the OSG?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I confirm, OSG, that you have given DBM a copy of that list?
I confirm, Your Honor.
All right. When can I have it?
Okay na po.
Your Honor, we have submitted the documents from the DBM. When?
No, I'm asking now specifically. You're going to do these things for me now, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'm asking, when can you submit it the way I want it to be presented to the court?
Yung-
Do you need a year?
Would it be possible to ask for 30 days, Your Honor?
Justice
Nakita
Marvick
ko.
is
Would it be possible to request for 2 weeks, Your
15 days.
Honor? 15 days.
Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. From today. Thank you so much. That will be all, Chief.
Thank you, Justice Kagiwa. May I call on Justice Raul Villanueva to proceed with his interpellation?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. Maraming salamat po, Diyos Agina. May I call first to the podium the counsels for Representative Edsel Lagman et al. And before we proceed to set the tone of my interpellations, with the permission of Justice Mon Hernando, allow me to show a slide that he presented with the letters IHUA, if you remember. That's the one. That stands for I hate unprogrammed appropriations. That's according to, of course, the presentation made by Justice Hernando. But as we Ilocanos, as well as all Filipinos, are very respectful, so I added the word po. So, which means I hate unprogrammed appropriations that are pocketed. So with that, I will be asking mostly or a lot of leading questions. So a reminder to everyone, answerable by yes or no only so as to expedite the interpellation that I will be making. So for the counsels of Representative Edsel Lagman, to be clear, the nullity and unconstitutionality of the unprogrammed appropriations as an appropriation item in the 2024 GAA or General Appropriations Act is not being prayed for by the petitioners, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
When the petition of Edsel Lagman et al. Was filed, the so-called flood control project scams were not yet exposed, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it can be said that the filing of the petition essentially is not out of hatred for unprogrammed appropriations. Am I correct?
We confirm that, Your Honor.
Okay. By the way, any one of you can answer. No? Actually, no specific project, program, activity, or project, or PAP, in the unprogrammed appropriations for the 2024 budget was particularly questioned by petitioners Lagman et al. Is it not?
Not necessarily, Your Honor. I think the main contention of the petitioner in that petition is the fact that the amount was exceeded, Your Honor.
That's right. So it is only the excess of what was submitted by the President through its 2024 NEP that is being questioned by petitioners Edsel Lagman et al. Is it not?
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
And this is because in the NEP for 2024, the recommended amount of unprogrammed appropriations was in the total sum of about 281.9 billion. But in the General Appropriations Bill that came from the House, this was increased to a total of 731.4 billion, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, and the basis of Lagman et al. In questioning this increase is the provision of the Constitution, particularly Section 25(1), Article 6. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's slide number 5. So, by the way, there were excesses in unprogrammed appropriations in 2022 and 2023. So, among others. But the petitioners, Edsel Lagman, did not file, actually, a petition to assail these excesses in the unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
By the way, I have with me the exhaustive discussion on the history, concept, and purpose of unprogrammed appropriations. Do you have a copy of this one? This is a submission from the OSG, am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. We have already requested that one, Your Honor, to our clients, Your Honor.
May I just request the Solgen to confirm if this came from your office, part of your submissions? Exhaustive discussion on the history, concept, and purpose of unprogrammed appropriations, unless it did not come from you. If it did not come from you, may I know if you have a copy of this one?
Your Honor, may I have a copy and to check in our tracker because it's a long list of documents that we submitted. Thank you very much. Your Honor, as of now, we are not able to identify that this is coming from...
But may I know if you have a copy of that particular...
as of now, Your Honor...
None as well?
None.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you as well. Now, going back to the counsels of Lagman et al. So specifically, Lagman et al. Are pointing to the Bicameral Conference Committee or BICAM, then co-chaired by Senator Angara and Representative Saldico, as the one to be blamed as they allegedly clandestinely inserted the excess in program appropriations. Is this correct?
Essentially, yes, Your Honor.
That is in your petition, actually.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're pointing to them, the two of them. insofar as the additional or excess in unprogrammed appropriations is concerned. So, is there any basis for this allegation of the petitioners?
Well, Your Honor, as previously alleged by in the petition, both the House and the Senate actually came up with similar outcomes in relation to the amounts of the GAA. And when it came out of the bicameral conference committee, that is when the unprogrammed appropriation bloated about 100%.
So the only basis is because after the deliberations on the budget for 2024, there was an increase that appeared, no, after the GAB was submitted. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, so just to be clear, Lagman et al., they are not blaming the entire Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, about this excess.
Yes, Your Honor, because as stated in the petition, Your Honor, the version of the lower house and the upper house in the General Appropriations Act is the same, Your Honor. It only, again, increased a very substantial amount, Your Honor, when it came out from the bicameral conference committee. So that is why, Your Honor, the previous congressman of the 1st District questioned the constitutionality of the unprogrammed appropriations as to the excess, Your Honor.
But the focus of the blame is only on the supposed, the alleged co-chairpersons of the bicameral conference committee. Is that correct?
Essentially, Your Honor, yes. However, Your Honor, if we may direct you again to the petition filed by Congressman Lagman, there are allegations there in relation to, but the court has already passed on it in relation to unprogrammed appropriations and securing funding for them through GOCCs.
Okay. So, going to another point, although unfortunately passed on, is it right to say that the late Representative Edsel Lagman and his co-petitioners, Representative Bordado Jr. and Representative Hataman, are not completely against unprogrammed appropriations except the excess? Am I correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So in all the years that the late Representative Lagman was in the House of Representatives, did he or even his co-petitioners here, if you know, ever filed a petition before the Supreme Court or any court for that matter to question the constitutionality of unprogrammed appropriations?
We confirm, Your Honor, that the late Congressman Edsel Lagman did not file any petition questioning the legality of unprogrammed appropriations because, as also stated in the petition, Your Honor, according to him, it is an essential component, Your Honor, of the budgetary process of the Republic of the Philippines.
So in other words, this is the first time, insofar as the 2024 budget is concerned, that Edsel Lagman and his co-petitioners filed to question the constitutionality of the excess in unprogrammed appropriations.
We confirm that, Your Honor.
And yet there are, as I mentioned earlier, based on record, some excesses in unprogrammed appropriations in prior years. Do you agree? And yet no petition was filed. Do you agree?
It would appear so, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
okay.
Yes.
So, on the bicameral conference committee, is it correct to say that the executive department, whether the Office of the President or even the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Finance, or even the Office of the National Treasurer, they have nothing to do with the work of the BICAM committee or what it does when it comes to the national budget? Am I correct in saying that?
Your Honor, insofar as passing the national budget is concerned, we would agree, Your Honor. But in relation to the implementation of all of these programs under the GAA, then they would be participative.
But
they would have participation.
Okay, but the question, Counsel, is: do any of these executive officials or offices, executive department offices or officials, the Office of the President, the National Treasurer, the Secretary of the DBM, or even the Secretary of Finance, do they have anything to do with the work of the BICAM?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So in the petition of Lagman et al., they are not blaming the Executive Department about the 449 billion excess or insertion in the GAB or the General Appropriations Bill, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
After all, this excess in the unprogrammed appropriations, as mentioned in your petition, did not come from the Executive Department, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, when referring to the budget in Section 25.1, which is there, you agree that this refers to the budget as provided in the NEP from the President, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
The word budget there refers to the NEP.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the budget or appropriations referred to in Section 25 is not what is contained in the General Appropriations Bill or even in the General Appropriations Act as annually legislated by Congress, is it not?
It may not necessarily be the same, Your Honor.
Yes, but we're talking about the word budget there in Section 25. So it only pertains to the NEP, does not pertain to the GAB, does not pertain to the GAA. Is that
Yes,
correct,
Your Honor.
Counsel?
I agree, Your Honor.
It is the position of Lagman et al., while the Constitution does not distinguish the prohibition on increasing the totality of the appropriations per Section 25.1, this refers separately to both the program appropriations and the unprogrammed appropriations. Is it not? What the petitioners are saying.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so what is the basis in saying that? That the amounts prohibited to be increased should be reckoned or treated differently with respect to the program appropriations, meaning you cannot increase the program appropriations, and likewise you cannot increase the unprogrammed appropriations instead of the entire amount of the national budget.
Your Honor, it is the position of the late Congressman Edsel Lagman that both the program appropriations and unprogrammed appropriations cannot be increased because Section 25, subparagraph 1, Your Honor, did not distinguish, Your Honor, as to the budget that may not be increased, Your Honor. So it is also his humble petition that since the law did not distinguish, the legislators or the bicameral conference committee cannot also distinguish, Your Honor.
So in other words, the petitioners are saying that if the program appropriations is about 5 trillion, Congress cannot increase it. If the unprogrammed appropriations is, for example, 500 billion, Congress cannot increase it based on Section 25.1.
That is the position of the petitioners, Your Honor.
Okay, very well then. The insertions of the BICAM conference for the 2024 budget were both approved by the House of Representatives and the Senate separately in plenary, is it not?
Yes, it was, Your Honor.
And the President or the Executive Department has nothing to do with the ratification done by Congress about any report coming from the BICAM committee, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor. However, Your Honor, in the petition, it was also the submission of petitioners Lagman and Hataman that no veto was also done by the executive in relation to the excess, Your Honor.
Okay, but you know that the veto comes after the GAB no,
Yes, Your
has
Honor.
been submitted, and after being ratified by both the House and the Senate, is
Yes,
it
Your
not?
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
And that you are referring to the enrolled bill, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
The one that can be vetoed, the subject of a veto is an enrolled bill, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. It is confirmed that for Lagman et al., the unprogrammed appropriations are essential components of the total national expenditures, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's why you're only questioning the excess, you're not questioning unprogrammed appropriations per se, isn't it?
Yes, Your Honor.
So my question is, why is this so?
Your Honor, it is the petition. It is Petitioner Lagman and Hataman's submission, Your Honor, that it is part of. It contributes to executive flexibility, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm done with my interpellation with respect to your petition. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Your
very
Honor.
much, Your Honor.
Okay. May I call on the counsel for Senator Aquilino Pimentel III and Pantaleon Bebot Alvarez.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Counsel. Pimentel III and Alvarez are not asking that unprogrammed appropriations alone be declared unconstitutional, but rather the entire 2024 GAA or RA or Republic Act number 11975, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And for Pimentel III and Alvarez, the 2024 GAA is unconstitutional because it violates Section 25(1) and Section 26. Section 25(1) is there. Section 26 of Article 6 is slide 7 of the Constitution, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor, among others.
Okay. As in the case of Lagman et al., when Pimentel III and Alvarez filed their petition even before, this was done even before the so-called flood control project scandal were yet in the news or even the subject of the State of the Nation address last July 2025 of President Marcos, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because of the petition filed by Lagman et al., we are now familiar with Section 25(1), of course.
Yes, Your
and
Honor.
of course, when it comes to Section 26, this pertains to Congress making sure, among others, that no bill shall be passed by it to become law unless it has passed 3 readings on separate days, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, in Section 26, is it not that this pertains to ordinary bills and not to appropriation bills?
Your Honor, the law stated in Section 26, Your Honor,
Section
states...
26 there. Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
It is, the wording is bill, Your Honor. Every bill passed by Congress, Your Honor. So, bill can encompass even this general appropriations bill, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it is your view that the requirement for an appropriations bill to be subjected to at least 3 readings should also be observed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. But you agree that there are separate provisions, particularly for appropriations laws, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, when certifying a bill as urgent then, is the President required under the Constitution to specify the public calamity or emergency to support such certification?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is it not enough that a calamity or public emergency is mentioned so as to meet this requirement?
Your Honor, if it is mentioned, it is enough, Your Honor, declaration from the President.
Okay. If Congress then enacts a bill into law that has been certified as urgent by the President, but the public calamity or emergency was not specifically provided, then such certified as urgent law should be declared as unconstitutional, as is your position?
Yes, Your Honor. It's our position, Your Honor.
So whose fault is it then that supposedly improperly certified as urgent bills were enacted into law? Is it the executive branch, headed by the President, or the legislative branch who acted on such certification?
Your Honor, it's the executive branch, Your Honor, as embodied in our petition, Your Honor.
Are you saying that Congress can reject a certification done by the President for a bill to be enacted into law?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, if even if the Congress decided to act on such certified as urgent bill and enacted it into law, it should be the executive branch who should be blamed for such law?
Your Honor, it's the assessment of the executive branch, Your Honor, and it just so happens that we have a law, Your Honor, defining calamity, Your Honor, that could be interpreted also, Your Honor, by the Congress.
So even if Congress acted on an improperly certified bill, you're saying that when this is enacted into law, it should be the executive branch who should be blamed, no, for such law?
Yes, Your Honor. There's also the discretion part on the part of the Congress, Your Honor.
You know that law can be vetoed.
Yes,
And,
Your Honor.
or any veto for that matter can also be overturned by Congress as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. For the 2024 national budget, you confirmed that the total amounts in the NEP submitted by the President and what are contained in House Bill number 8980 or the General Appropriations Bill from the House and the committee report number 155 of the Senate are the same insofar as the amounts contained therein are concerned.
Yes, Your Honor.
So when it comes to the national budget, the Senate does not come out with a counter bill. Do you agree with that?
Your Honor, if you mention the Senate, Your Honor, there's also this BICAM, Your Honor, that also has the Senate component, Your Honor. And the issue in this case, Your Honor, was the proceedings there which increased the amount in the unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor. So I just want to clarify that.
But you know that with respect to appropriations laws, only the House of Representatives comes out with a version, like a House bill version, which is referred to as the GAB, and the Senate does not come out with a counterpart bill. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So in other words, it's not similar to any kind of law wherein there is a bill in the House and then there is a counterpart bill in the Senate with respect to laws outside of appropriation laws.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So under Section 24, Article 6, that's slide number 4, all appropriations bills, among others, shall originate exclusively in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments. Do you confirm then that it is the House which principally determines appropriation laws and not the Senate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Based on that constitutional provision, Section 24.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So if the Senate does not propose or concur with amendments with the appropriations bill from the House, and there are disagreeing provisions, if you know, what will become of the bill that will come from the House?
Your Honor, the House is equipped, Your Honor, to my knowledge, because there are numerous, Your Honor, other than the versus the numbers in the Senate, Your Honor. That's why this, I want to say that this is crafted this way, Your Honor. The constitutional provision is crafted this way because in the House, Your Honor, they are properly equipped by their numbers, Your Honor, to analyze, Your Honor, and to sift through, Your Honor, the NEP, Your Honor, prepared by the President.
Okay. If there is no BICAM committee, bicameral, no, conference committee, how will disagreeing provisions be addressed or settled by Congress?
Your Honor, I just want to point out, Your Honor, that the process, process within which you determine the change, Your Honor, actually the increase in the amount of unprogrammed appropriations, is not commensurate to the analysis, Your Honor, as given in the National Expenditure Program, Your Honor, and in the General Appropriations Bill, Your Honor.
Okay. I just want you to take note of Section 24 because that's also the subject, no, of your petition. Now, if you know, why did Pimentel III and Alvarez not file a petition before the Supreme Court to question the GAAs prior to the 2024 GAA, like in 2022 and 2023, where there were increases in the appropriations for unprogrammed appropriations?
Your Honor, to my knowledge, this is a stepwise increase, Your Honor, in the amount of and the bicameral conference committee, Your Honor, increased this, Your Honor, and excluded it in the total for the appropriations, Your Honor. Our position, Your Honor, is that it should not violate 25(1) of Articles 6, Section 25(1) of Article 6, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, but by the way, based on the records that I have, in 36 years, there were 8 GAAs where unprogrammed appropriations were increased. And it is on record that this is the first time that Senator Pimentel, Coco Pimentel III, and Alvarez, Congressman Alvarez, filed a petition to question any excess in unprogrammed appropriations. Is it not?
Yes, Your Honor. And this is a unique case, Your Honor, because they are excluding it from the total, Your Honor, of the appropriations, Your Honor, as contained in 25-1, Your Honor.
Yes, but Counsel, as I was saying earlier, in 2022 there was an increase in the unprogrammed appropriations. In 2023 there was also an increase in the unprogrammed appropriations, but no petition was filed by Pimentel or even Alvarez regarding these increases. Is it not?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, why again is it that Pimentel III and or Alvarez not asking for unprogrammed appropriations to be nullified and instead the entire 2024 GAA to be declared unconstitutional?
Your Honor, to my readings, Your Honor, and to my talks with my clients, Your Honor, this also involves the emergency, the declaration of emergency or calamity, Your Honor, which the position of my clients, it does not exist, Your Honor, at that time, Your Honor. That's why the expediency by which this enrolled bill, Your Honor, was made, was pointed to in our petition.
Okay. But of course, actually, even if it was passed without 3 readings in the House, it still went to the Senate, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then it was only after both chambers or houses have reconciled, perhaps even their disagreeing provisions, that eventually the enrolled bill was transmitted to the Office of the President sometime in December, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor. It
Okay.
was opposed by my client, Your Honor,
So
Pimentel.
in other words, it took a while eventually before this particular appropriations law reached the Office of the President.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Incidentally, is it correct to say that Pimentel III and Alvarez are not completely against unprogrammed appropriations, and they question the 2024 GAA because the excess in the unprogrammed appropriations is violative of Section 25(1), Article 6, and since the General Appropriations Bill was certified as urgent contrary to Section 26, Article 6, is it not?
Your Honor, I just want to point out that in the last 3 paragraphs, Your Honor, we mentioned Article 6, Section 25(4) of the 1987 Constitution, Your Honor.
That is with respect to the 3 readings.
That is with respect to the special appropriations, Your Honor.
Okay. Yes.
Your Honor, I just want to read again or state again that...
No, it's okay, Counsel. That's not part of my question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Just curious. Since the fiscal year 2024 is already over, is Pimentel III and Alvarez still pursuing their prayer for the 2024 GAA to be declared as unconstitutional? It's already 2026, Counsel.
Your Honor, I think there is already precedent for this, Your Honor. In the PhilHealth case, Your Honor, it was ordered that the an excess, Your Honor, to be returned, Your Honor, in the subsequent or next General Appropriations Act, Your Honor, or the enrolled bill approved by the President. So, using that as basis, Your Honor, I think it is possible, Your Honor, but it is post, Your Honor, return, Your Honor, by way of appropriations, Your Honor.
So, that to you is the benefit of having the 2024 GAA declared as unconstitutional?
Yes, Your Honor. And you're also so also that there may be precedent, Your Honor, that no, we espouse, Your Honor, that the increase in the appropriations was done here, Your Honor, in violation of 25(1) of Article 6, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Counsel. I'm done with my interpretation with respect to your clients. May I call on the counsels for Filipinos for Peace, Justice, and Progress movement, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So FPJPM is only asking to declare as unconstitutional the increase in appropriations to the special accounts in the General Fund or SAGF and the DPWH Special Road Fund, which were not part of the 2025 NEP or the President's budget for 2025, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So am I right in saying that these two items are under automatic appropriations?
Yes, Your Honor.
So the issue here is not about unprogrammed appropriations, but automatic appropriations?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So FPJPM, sorry paborito ko si FPJ, pero hindi ko maano itong FPJPM is not asking to declare as unconstitutional unprogrammed appropriations in the 2025 GAA or RA or Republic Act number 12116. Is this not correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
The concern of the petitioner, Your Honor, is
So-
the automatic appropriations, Your Honor.
So again, the SAGF for some agencies in the sum of 12.7 billion in addition to the 27.3 billion in the 2025 NEP or the total sum of 40.1 billion in the 2025 GAA is under the item on automatic appropriations. So as an item under automatic appropriations, it is your position that all agencies with SAGF or those given automatic appropriations should not be increased beyond what is provided in the NEP.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct, Your Honor.
So why do you say this again?
Because, Your Honor, the basis for the creation of the SAGF, or the special account in the general fund, is provided under the special laws that were, whose funds were increased by Congress, Your Honor.
And, Your Honor, if I may add, and if any of those were increased, it will definitely exceed the National Expenditure Program as provided by the President, and therefore, it will violate Article 6, Section 25(1), Your Honor.
Okay. So what again do you mean by automatic appropriations not being required and annual legislative action by Congress?
Automatic appropriations, Your Honor, means the funds that were already designated by, earmarked by law for a designated purpose shall not be increased, shall not be touched by Congress.
So you're
unless-
saying if the proposal is, for example, the amount of SAGF to cover a number of agencies is about 1 billion, when you say this does not require annual legislative action by Congress, it means that amount should just be accepted as is without any increase or decrease?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may add, because there is already, the law has already provided for that amount, Your Honor, and therefore, it must comply with the requirement of these special laws that provide that this amount shall be earmarked for these government agencies.
Okay. Per the computation of FPJPM, the 2025 GAA reached 6.365 trillion, higher than the total sum of 6.352 trillion in the 2025 NEP, due mainly to the increase in the SAGF, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So still, it is the position of the FPJPM that the entire 2025 GAA should not be declared illegal and constitutionally defective, is it not?
Only with respect to the excess, Your Honor.
So why are you not of the position that due to that increase or because the total budget was increased beyond what was provided in the NEP submitted by the President, you still consider the entire GAA as constitutional?
Because, Your Honor, only the increase was made, has made the entire budget unconstitutional, Your Honor.
Okay. What again is questionable in adjusting the appropriation of the DPWH on the Special Road Fund, which is under automatic appropriations, from 16.7 billion in the 2025 NEP to 34.7 billion in the 2025 GAA?
Your Honor, the basis of the question is with respect to the special law creating the special road fund, Your Honor. That would be Republic Act 8794 as amended by Republic Act 11239. Under that law, Your Honor, it was specifically stated, particularly Section 7 thereof, that the special road fund must be sourced from the motor vehicle users charge.
Okay.
And what happened in the 2025 General Appropriations Act, Your Honor, was that from 16 billion, when it went through the bicameral conference committee, it was increased into a staggering 34 billion, Your Honor. And it is our humble submission that this violated the Constitution, Your Honor.
Okay. FPJPM is not faulting the executive department, particularly the office of the president, in the increases in the SCJF allocations and the line item appropriation of the DPWH on the special road fund, is it not?
Yes, sir.
So similar to the assertions in the Lagman et al. Petition, FPJPM finds the bicameral conference committee as responsible for such upward increases in the automatic appropriations for the SAGF and the DPWH on the special road fund, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor, as reflected in the special provisions of those amendments, Your Honor.
Yeah, very well then. Thank you, counsels,
Thank you.
for answering my questions. I'm done with my interpellations regarding your client. May I call on
Thank you,
the
Your Honors.
counsels for Edgar Erice and Laila De Lima, please? So any of you may answer my questions. Erice and De Lima are not questioning the entire 2026 GAA or Republic Act number 12314, but only the constitutionality of unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
So their petition is not completely similar to the petitions of Lagman et al. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
And not likewise similar to the petition of FPJPM, is
Yes,
it
Your
not?
Honor.
And only related but not in the same way insofar as the petition of Pimentel III and Alvarez, which seeks to declare as unconstitutional the entire 2024 GAA, not only the unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. When Erice was a previous member of the House of Representatives and De Lima was serving as a senator, they did not file a similar petition before the Supreme Court, assailing the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriations in the previous year's GAA. Is it not?
They did not, Your Honor. This is the first instance.
Okay. So in other words, since 1987 or 1989, when unprogrammed appropriations were included as an item, as a major item in the General Appropriations Act, no case was filed by any of them regarding these unprogrammed appropriations.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Erice and De Lima, in filing their petition, claimed that the magnitude, contingent nature, and structure of the unprogrammed appropriations expose public funds to the risk of unconstitutional release and expenditure, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are the risks they have in mind what happened to the flood control projects budget that has now become very controversial?
That is a manifestation of the defects, Your Honor, that has been inherent in the unprogrammed appropriations.
President Marcos Jr. vetoed 92.5 billion out of the 243.4 billion in unprogrammed appropriations in the 2026 GAB, which became, of course, the GAA for 2026, which is the subject of the petition of your clients. So leaving approximately about 150.9 billion in unprogrammed appropriations. Are Erice and De Lima aware if as of May 31, perhaps 2026, or if available as of June 15, 2026, the unprogrammed appropriations in the total sum of 150.9 billion has already been spent by the implementing agencies? Are your clients aware?
We have no information as to
Okay.
that, Your Honors.
And if at all, is there any report that the funding for flood control projects in the 2026 GAA ended up being pocketed by government officials or contractors, similar to allegations involving previous year's budgets?
For the 2026, Your Honor, there will be no
No reports
expense
yet.
of that nature because the remaining items under unprogrammed appropriations are too specific, Your Honor, namely the AFP modernization program, the risk management program, and for foreign assisted projects, Your Honor, which will preclude, Your Honor, a similar expense as in the previous
Previous years. Very well then. So at this point, may I just ask the OSG to be ready regarding documents showing that the total amounts of unprogrammed appropriations in the 2024 GAA, in the 2025 GAA, and in the 2026 GAA, so far as available, were spent already, and what is the balance, if any? So I'm referring to all unprogrammed appropriations for 2024, 2025, and 2026, whatever are the items there, if these have been spent already, and if there is any balance for 2024, 25, and 26.
Yeah, noted, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. If you know, the conditions for the release of funds to finance unprogrammed appropriations have appeared in prior years, GAAs, like in the 2024 GAA and the 2025 GAA, is it not? There are conditions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so it is just the conclusion of a recent dilemma that Section 22, which is slide 8, Article 7, was violated because unprogrammed appropriations are not supported by a BESF. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. One of the grounds is that there is no source of funding under the unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
But is it not that unprogrammed appropriations actually have separate sources of funding not covered by the BESF?
Separate contingent sources of funding, Your Honor.
So, which means that when the BESF is submitted as well, together with the proposed budget for a particular year, it does not cover funding for unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
Your Honor, our position is that those conditions do not amount to the sources of funding as contemplated under Article 7, Section 22, because even the extent of that was based, Your Honor, on studies by our economic managers, and those conditions, as contained in the special provisions under unprogrammed appropriations, are generic and merely events, Your Honor, that should happen.
But you agree that when you talk about the BESF, it talks about funding program appropriations and not unprogrammed appropriations.
We agree, Your Honor, that it is just one appropriations, Your Honor.
But with respect to what is being submitted to Congress, BESF refers to or will cover largely program appropriations, because unprogrammed appropriations, as you mentioned earlier, are covered by different conditions, is it not?
That would be the ideal, Your Honor.
Okay. Is this allowing the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriations, which is the main focus of your petition, which has been included in the NEP for many years already, and which then serves as the basis of the GAB, wherein the GAB is completely the act of Congress? Is doing that surrendering the constitutional prerogative given to Congress, particularly its power of the purse?
It will not be surrendering the power of the purse, Your Honor. In fact, it will strengthen Congress's exercise of the power of the purse, because by removing the unprogrammed appropriations, it will preclude delegation of the authority to appropriate to the executive department, Your Honor. And in terms of tradition or longevity of the use of unprogrammed appropriations, we have done that to the pork barrel, Your Honor. So it will not preclude the Honorable Court from considering to declare as unconstitutional as well the unprogrammed appropriations.
But you agree that, do you agree that, of course, when it comes to the power of the purse, it covers not only programmed appropriations, but even unprogrammed appropriations?
If we may, Your Honor, appropriations, as this court has defined in the past, is the designation of determinate and determinable amounts. And that characteristic, Your Honor, is not present under unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
And just to add on that, Your Honor, it also supports the idea or the constitutional provision on the germaneness, such that such appropriation has to be particular, unambiguous, and appropriate, Your Honor. Hence, it is our submission that it is not surrendering, but strengthening the power of the purse lodged in the Congress, Your Honor.
But when I say power of the purse, it means that the submission of the executive department through the NEP can be the subject of scrutiny of Congress, and it can exercise its power of the purse by determining which amount should be appropriated without going beyond what is provided in the NEP, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So, with respect to program appropriations, do you consider, because in your petition, you mentioned that Congress, even if unprogrammed appropriations is allowed, must still comply with the non-delegation doctrine, which requires that any delegation of discretion be accompanied by sufficient standards to guide the implementing authority. So we're talking about sufficient standards. So my question is, with respect to program appropriations, do you consider the need for standards to be fixed as well by Congress to meet the requisites of proper delegation? Take note, because in non-program appropriations, before you answer, there are conditions that you put, that Congress put there before the release of any amount under unprogrammed appropriations. I'm asking is, do you still need the same kind of standard for purposes of program appropriations?
It is no longer necessary, Your Honor, because the appropriation itself is the authority given by Congress to spend that certain amount of money and bring that out of the Treasury, Your Honors.
Okay. Is it not that unprogrammed appropriations are appropriations intended for the operations of the government for a particular fiscal year?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. If unprogrammed appropriations are completely disallowed, all budgetary proposals will be considered only as program appropriations and automatic appropriations, will it not? Because you're taking out unprogrammed appropriations.
That is what we maintain, Your Honor,
Okay.
and if that is so important, it should be under programmed appropriations.
Even automatic appropriations, is that what you're saying?
Not
So we
anymore,
still-
Your Honor, because we are talking about just the budget submitted by the President for the operations of the government, and the automatic appropriations have already been allocated amounts for by law as well, Your Honor.
Okay. So if we only have program appropriations and automatic appropriations, then the funding for these appropriations will all be based on the BESF, is it not?
As contemplated by the Constitution, yes, Your Honor.
Will this not limit the capability of the government to spend, since we do not expect that all revenue collections will be sufficient to cover all program and automatic appropriations?
No, Your Honor. As mentioned during the last hearings, Your Honor, there is also a supplemental budget or special appropriations, such that if there is a need, the Congress, Your Honor, may meet and convene and enact a special appropriations for particular purposes, Your Honor.
But you know already the process insofar as supplemental appropriations or special appropriations are concerned, that it goes through the same legislative mill, passing through the House and then going to the Senate, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you very much, counsels. I'm done with my interpellations regarding your client.
Thank you
May-
very much, Your Honor.
May I just call on the Honorable Senator Drilon to the podium. Former Senate President Frank Drilon.
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes.
Magandang umaga po. On the BICAM Conference Committee, do you find any provision in the Constitution that authorizes its creation by Congress or the Legislative Department?
None, Your Honor, but it is born out of necessity because the versions of both houses would not usually would we need to reconcile the respective proposals of the two chambers, and therefore the need for a bicameral conference committee to iron out these differences.
So how does Congress create this BICAM then? By resolution, by legislation, or by mere agreement?
To my recollection, I cannot answer that question as a matter of fact as to how Congress came about with the Bicameral Conference Committee. Nung pagdating ko po sa Senado, may BICAM na, and that was in 1995. How it was created, I don't know.
Okay. So, who determines the members that will compose the BICAM Conference Committee? If you know.
The respective chambers would designate the members of the BICAM, and usually the chairman is the chairman of the budget committee of both houses.
Okay. You claim that program appropriations function as a special appropriation contained in the GAA. Is that right?
I'm sorry,
According
sir?
to you, program appropriations function as a special appropriation contained in the GAA. That is your statement. Do you recall?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct, Your Honor, that I recall that statement.
Okay. So are you saying that instead of resorting to what is provided in Section 25.4, that's slide 6, Article 6 of the Constitution, wherein a separate special appropriations bill should be filed to supplement the GAA, identifying specifically the available funding source as certified by the National Treasurer, that Congress can just include under program appropriations, special appropriations?
The unauthorized appropriations are included in the national expenditure program submitted by the executive to Congress, and Congress adopts it as part of the general appropriations bill and subsequently part of the General Appropriations Act. Whether or not that the inclusion or the funding of those unprogrammed appropriations are contingent upon certain conditions. If I may submit to Your Honors, the reason why there is so much difficulty is that we forget the fact that Congress has plenary powers over the budget. We must remember, sir, if I may say, that we are in a Republican state. In a Republican state, all power emanates from the people. And the Constitution is a limitation on the power of the state, on the power of government. And therefore, the limitations of the power of government must be contained in the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, the Constitution does not provide for the unprogrammed appropriation, and therefore this is part of the power of the state to appropriate. And it is our respectful submission, Your Honor, that this is a plenary power of Congress, and that cannot be restricted, but it doesn't mean that the use of such power cannot be corrected, and that is why there is the power of this honorable court to correct abuses of discretion on the part of the branches of government.
Okay. When you talk about unprogrammed appropriations, which forms part of the NEP submitted by the President, usually there is no need for a certification from the National Treasurer about the availability of funds to cover those unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
It
And
is
then
only
as
when they are
compared-
released that certification is required.
Okay. And compared to a special appropriation pursuant to Section 25.4, you need a certification from the National Treasurer for the availability on the availability of funds for purposes of a law to provide for that special appropriation, is it not?
You are correct, Your Honor,
Okay.
but the assumption, I assume, is that the inclusion of the unauthorized unprogrammed appropriation with the corresponding sources of revenue, which is excess funds or excess collection and or loans, is the one that would take the place, in effect, of the special authorization or granted or required of special appropriations.
Okay, in other words, you prefer that ang program appropriations be in the net rather than to come up with the special appropriations that would supplement the national budget.
I have no preference, Your Honor.
Okay.
The fact is that it is there, and we did not create that.
Okay, for many years, program appropriations have been included in GAAs since 1989, and you claim that its legitimacy arose only, the questions, on its legitimacy arose only after a marked increase in the said appropriations as compared to the NEPs. So are you saying that if the program appropriations were not increased, there should have been no issue regarding the inclusion of these program appropriations in the GAAs?
In my submission, Your Honor, in my opinion, there is no question of the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriation. It is in the process of implementing the unprogrammed appropriation where questions legitimately arise.
Okay. If you knew, because of reports already regarding the misuse of these unprogrammed appropriations for flood control projects, if you knew that the amounts allocated for unprogrammed appropriations will just be pocketed, will you still advocate for these appropriations to be included in our GAAs?
I am not advocating for anything. What I'm just saying is the power to include unprogrammed appropriation is a power of Congress.
Okay. So, what safeguards, if any, should be put in place to prevent the misuse of funds placed under unprogrammed appropriations?
We have, number one, the check on the use on the utilization of the unprogrammed appropriation is the requirement that there should be an excess in revenue. The abuse committed by the executive branch is that instead of considering the whole revenue picture, they picked up on individual sources of revenue and on that basis authorized the release of unprogrammed revenue, which was the source of the corruption. Having said that, Your Honor, it is not because we have enough safeguards or mechanisms in our Constitution which should address these abuses. You have the COA, and precisely we are now witnessing the impeachment of the Vice President because it is a mechanism for accountability. And therefore that is embedded in our Constitution, the mechanisms of accountability. Unfortunately, over the past decades, we have seen how the culture of impunity has prevailed, and therefore you have abuses of authority because we have never enforced the law correctly.
Okay. It is your position that program appropriations and non-program appropriations must be separate in the GAAs. Do you confirm that? As a sound fiscal management measure. You mentioned that.
I'm sorry, sir, if you can rephrase.
You said previously that program appropriations and unprogrammed appropriations must be separate in the GAAs as a sound fiscal management measure. Do you confirm that?
I do not. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I do not recall having made that statement.
Anyway, that's part of my notes. But
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Senate President.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. May I call on Secretary Butchabad? In Ilonggo, that's Salamat Gid pala.
Morning, Justice.
Good morning. According to you, over the past 4 decades, the country registered budget surpluses only during a brief 4-year period from 1994 to 1997 during the administration of President Ramos, and revenue collections exceeded targets only in 6 fiscal years, 1994 to 1997, 2001, and 2004. So that as a general rule, the fiscal conditions necessary to validly trigger and program appropriations have not existed, according to you. Is this not right?
In general, Your Honor.
Okay. So are you saying then that all the unprogrammed appropriations for the years that there were surpluses or where there were excess in revenue collections are valid?
Well, only because for some of those years, until the Ochoa case, Berica Ochoa case came out, I think it's the PDAF, that's right, the Berica versus Ochoa case came up when it decided that the streams of revenue should be considered in their totality. Okay. Until that point, non-excess, non-tax revenues were the mechanism used to fund unprogrammed appropriations. But then, it was pointed out that that mechanism is not deficit neutral.
Okay. I think Belica is about the pork barrel. And Araulio versus Aquino is about the
PDAF.
Yes. Are you saying then that when you were a member of the House of Representatives as a legislator, did you raise this issue about unprogrammed appropriations being rendered inoperative since there is no surplus or excess in revenue collections to begin with?
Well, in fact, to be perfectly honest, we were never really concerned about it because it never came up in the discussions of Congress, because really the focus was on program appropriations, because under the Constitution, the program of appropriations is funded by the BSF, and it contains the NEP, or the President's budget. So that was really the focus of discussion. And now we realize that unprogrammed appropriations don't really figure in the debates, because what they at most do is authorize general expenditures. But insofar as identifying sources of financing, these are dependent on fiscal events happening in the future, post-enactment.
Okay.
And during budget execution, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So it is correct to say then that when you were budget secretary or head of the Department of Budget and Management, you did not ask President Aquino then not to submit a NEP that contained unprogrammed appropriations? Because your
not
focus
during
was
budget
different.
submission, Your Honor.
Yes, okay. So as former DBM secretary during the Aquino administration, did you have the opportunity to convey to President Aquino then that ang program appropriations in the national budget submitted during his term are fiscally or financially unsound?
No, Your Honor, because in fact, I think I recall having utilized the mechanism insofar as drawing from surplus dividends coming from the GOCC's then. But these were not big amounts, Your Honor.
Okay. Was there any occasion during the administration of President Aquino that he vetoed any provision in the budget bill presented to him for his signature?
I do not recall, Your Honor.
Would you agree that projects, activities, or programs or PAPs under unprogrammed appropriations require closer monitoring or scrutiny as compared to the PAPs under program appropriations?
Well, compared to the program appropriations, which have identified sources of financing, and which contains the National Expenditure Program, which is really the President's budget, they have been given more scrutiny, because unprogrammed appropriations, while they contain authorized general expenditures approved by Congress, they never really had identified sources of financing, and were dependent on fiscal events that really hardly happened as a general fiscal occurrence, Your Honor. So therefore, it was the program appropriations that was really the focus of attention in the budget process.
Okay. So in order to come up with what you refer to as a comprehensive framework for managing the nation's finances, do you have any institutional safeguards in mind to protect public funds from being stolen or pocketed by unscrupulous public officials, individuals, or contractors?
Well, what has been unprecedented insofar as the abuse of or the diversion of PAPs from, let's say, program appropriations has been just this past 3 years, Your Honors, in 2023, when something like 397 billion were taken from program appropriations. In 2024, when the amount of about 564 billion were all taken from the program appropriations and diverted somewhere. And finally, in 2025, when 497 billion from program appropriations were also reprogrammed.
Okay.
So those are really unprecedented in my experience insofar as budgeting is concerned. And I think they had little to do with unprogrammed appropriations, but more to do with pooling public funds over which legislators had full control and diversion. And if ever unprogrammed appropriations was mentioned, I think it was more to cover up for that pool of funds over which they had full discretion, and maybe to create an assurance which has no basis for telling the public that we are taking these funds and putting them in unprogrammed appropriations because in the future we may be able to find money to finance them. And perhaps that may have happened, and that may have been the reason why in the 2024 GAA, that was amended and a general provision 1D was included, which resulted in the extraction of cash from PhilHealth and PDIC. And I think that is the only consequence I saw in the adoption of the unprogrammed appropriations during that time, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Thank you very much, Secretary. I'm done with my interpellation. Salamat po.
Salamat din po.
Diyos mamahis. Can I call on Congressman Joey Salceda, please?
Diyos maray na hapon po.
Magandang araw po. Nembag nga bigat yo po. In your presentation, it is your position that the government is spending too little and the effect thereof are in a three-bladed contractionary policy, which are spending is lower than last year, we are shrinking money supply, and the external environment is cloudy. Is it not?
Correct.
Okay. Are you saying that government spending based on program appropriations are not enough, that we need unprogrammed appropriations?
You can see that in terms of its impacts or its consequences in terms of poverty, unemployment, in terms of economic growth. So all these are reflect what the government puts into the economy, and therefore it can be said that government expenditures are suboptimal in order that we can achieve the ambition of the ordinary Filipino in terms of for their family or for their children.
Okay, so you're saying, in essence, program appropriations are not enough. We should have unprogrammed appropriations.
If possible, optimally, sir,
Okay.
they should have been put there, except that there are conditionalities.
Okay.
When you say conditionalities, you're not sure whether, one, the revenues will come in, two, that the FAPs or the foreign assisted
Okay.
loans will come in.
Okay. Also, and according to you, the long use by the executive and legislative branches of program appropriations should result in these appropriations being decreed as lawful or constitutional. Am I right? That's what you said in your presentation.
Yes.
Okay. So you maintain this view then, even if there are reports of abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of funds allocated for program appropriations? Do you still maintain that view?
Sir, the abuse is not a function of the fact that malaki po yung unprogrammed funds, unprogrammed appropriations. I think there are enough railguards in the Constitution itself, in a lot of laws, in terms of COA, in terms of, there's a slew, a universe that will provide the controls, and therefore, the abuse of unprogrammed funds, the abuse is not a function because there are unprogrammed funds in the budget.
Okay. As far as you are concerned, striking down unprogrammed appropriations will neither breed nor bust ghost projects, and that both program and unprogrammed appropriations are vulnerable to implementation abuses. So are you saying that we cannot escape abuses, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds no matter how much we try?
I think, sir, the Constitution, if you read a slew of it, and I think I am very tempted to say about Anna Arendt, about the banality of evil. In other words,
just reply to the question.
okay, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you still would want to see unprogrammed appropriations and just attend to any abuse, misuse, or misappropriation separately?
Because the misuse is not because there is unprogrammed funds.
Okay. Okay. Now, you mentioned as well in your presentation that striking down unprogrammed appropriations retroactively punishes legitimate contractors. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Saying so, but this will this not also prospectively avoid illegitimate contractors?
But I think Congress, I think, could put in new guardrails so that future misuse, with or without, whether on the unprogrammed funds or the programmed funds, then I think the rules in order to prevent the misuse apply to both.
Okay. According to you, without unprogrammed appropriations, government is left with no crisis instrument, and there is no replacement insofar as unprogrammed appropriations is concerned. Do you confirm that?
Yes, sir. Because
So are you saying that we are stuck with unprogrammed appropriations no matter how we try to get rid of it?
Well, we're not in the best of times. We're trying as much as possible to grow the economy, to put in the general economic strategy in order to grow our revenues and therefore provide, I think, sufficient funds for necessary to reduce poverty, increase growth, and of course, for development. So, ang importante po talaga dyan na that the instrumentalities of government, and there are enough rules. If you read, I don't know if you put all the rules and guidelines, the IRRs, I think there are enough guardrails, but I think still. So I don't think that ang sinasabi ko po, sir, na halos lahat ng crisis, let me start the recent crisis, the pandemic crisis. The pandemic crisis, 3 years, 2.4 trillion. There was no revenues of 2.4 trillion. So it was the central bank that financed the government. And therefore now we have to use unprogrammed funds in order to pay for it. And then again, we had this crisis, the recent
Okay.
crisis with respect to fuel. So again, we cannot rely on the organic, hindi kulang po.
Okay. My last question, you conclude in your presentation that an outright invalidation of unprogrammed appropriations will shift to the court, a burden the Constitution assigns to Congress. You remember?
Yes, sir.
Why do you say that? Briefly, please.
Because that is the entire structure of a Republican state. It has 3 branches, and our Constitution assigns full plenary powers on fiscal matters to Congress.
Okay. Diyos Mabalos, Congressman. Salamat po. Secretary Ben Jokno, please.
Morning, Your Honor.
Magandang umaga po. Based on your submission, you claim to have prepared 13 of the 39 post-ed sa One Revolution national budgets, which is 1/3 so far of all GAs after 1987, is it not?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So in all these 13 national budgets, unprogrammed appropriations were included in every NEP, the General Appropriations Bills, and the corresponding GAAs. Am I not correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you did not recognize anything wrong in including unprogrammed appropriations in all the national budgets that you prepared?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. So for all the 13 national budgets that you prepared, what were the safeguards, if any, that you put in place to prevent any abuse or misappropriation of the funds allocated under unprogrammed appropriations?
In fact, I think the triggers are fairly constant. Number 1, excess taxes. Number 2, excess non-tax revenues. And third will be proceeds from foreign assisted projects. The fourth one was entered in 2024, and you're all familiar with that.
Okay. So according to you, from 2005 to 2026, the unprogrammed appropriations approved by Congress exceeded the unprogrammed appropriations in the NEPs only 5 times. Do you find this odd, unusual, or alarming?
No, that should be the case, that it should not exceed what is proposed by the President. And what is unusual is that during the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, the excess was unusually large.
Okay. So by the way, if you recall, in all the 13 national budgets that you prepared, how many in unprogrammed appropriations were decreased or reduced from the NEP to the DAAs?
I don't recall, but there were cases where
It was reduced.
request of the President was reduced by Congress.
So how do you find any reduction? Because based on the data that I have, there were 13 times that in 36 years that the amounts for unprogrammed appropriations were decreased or reduced.
Maybe there are some items there that Congress find excessive, so it is within the right to reduce.
So compared to an increase, it's better to decrease? Is that what you're saying?
No, an increase is not allowed, Your Honor, under the Constitution.
Okay. You described that in the last 3 years, the excesses or increases in the unprogrammed appropriations legislated or considered by Congress to be monumental, is it not?
That's correct, Your
So
Honor.
this refers to the GAAs for 2023, 2024, and 2025, which are national budgets under President Marcos Jr., is it not?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So however, would you agree that prior to these GAAs, there was also an increase of about 100 million in the 2022 GAA in unprogrammed appropriations? So is this not correct?
That's correct.
So,
And
in
I'm
other
surprised, Your Honor, but
2022.
I was trying to look for an explanation for that, and maybe it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So in other words, the monumental excesses or increases started in 2022 JA, which was a national budget of the previous administration, is it not?
Let me check my notes, Your Honor. Yeah, I think there's a year under GMA, a year under President Duterte, and 3 years under President Marcos.
During the time of GMA, 3 times it was increased ang program appropriations in 2004, 2008, and 2010. The highest being in the amount of 47 billion. In one time under based on my record, one time during the administration of PRRD, that's in 2022, 100 billion.
That's I would think it's because of the COVID, Mr.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of foreign assisted projects during that time.
Okay.
To buy the vaccines and the ayudas, etc. And
Okay.
that's allowed under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Very good. Again, for you, unprogrammed appropriations are standby appropriations, is it not?
That's correct. It's
Okay.
not standby fund. It's in standby
Standby
appropriation to be triggered by, as I said, excess revenue, excess taxes rather, excess non-tax revenue, and proceeds from foreign assisted projects.
So for foreign assisted projects, as you mentioned it already, you consider the implementation thereof as being delayed, if not included as one of the PAPs, no, under unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
My opinion, Your Honor, is that if we are going to allow the unprogrammed appropriations, we can actually limit it to only foreign assisted projects on stream, meaning they're not yet approved by the time we prepare the budget, but may be approved during the implementation period. But we can limit it to foreign assisted projects.
Okay. So what again are the risks for such delay in the implementation of FAPs, if any? Because you insist that it should be
under
unprogrammed appropriations.
Under
Go
the
ahead.
Constitution, Your Honor, no money shall be paid out of the Treasury except in pursuance of an appropriation made by law. Okay. And so even if the FAPS has been approved, if there's no appropriations cover, we cannot spend the money.
Okay. To you, the Executive Department knows best, especially when it comes to the preparation of the national budget, which to you is the most consequential piece of legislation passed by the legislature. Is this correct?
That's correct. In fact, Your Honor, it is the only bill I know that cannot be prepared by the House or the Senate without waiting for the President's submission of the BSF.
Okay.
It should be based on the BSF.
You're referring to the unprogrammed appropriation should also be based on the BSF?
No, Your Honor, the budget contains 3 things.
Yeah.
Program, automatically appropriated funds,
Okay.
and the unprogrammed.
Okay. So BESF, as we have been discussing earlier, pertains largely to program appropriations.
No, it's the totality.
Yes.
BSF contains 3 years of numbers. The current year, the immediate past, and the ensuing year.
Okay.
And then from there, we prepare what's called the NEP. We prepare the NEP. This is the counterpart of the GAB. Okay,
Yes.
we are being nice to the House because it will take them a long time to prepare the GAB. So we prepare the NEP,
Okay.
and they base their GAB on the NEP.
Okay. What again is your objection or concern regarding the increase in the earmark funds for the road users fund?
Your Honor, this is one of those that is automatically appropriated, like debt service, the national tax allocation. It used to be IRA. This is prepared by the Department of Public Works and Highways. They look at how much money is available. They have a formula of how much they need because it's formula-based, number of kilometers and so forth and so on. And they also assess their own capability in terms of implementing the projects. So on that basis, it is prepared by the executive, and then it's discussed in the cabinet. Whatever number we get from DPWH, the Department of Budget and Management would then input that. It will be approved by the cabinet, approved by the president, and therefore, I think Congress does not have the information necessary to increase that, and also they are barred from increasing the budget in the first place.
May I just, sorry to cut you short on that one, because my last question is that objection of yours aligned to the petition of FPJPM?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I think whatever is submitted by the president should not be, especially with respect to the automatically appropriated funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm done with my interpellation. Maraming salamat. Mr. Chief Justice, I know it's nearing 12 noon, but will I be allowed to finish the last person that I will interpellate, who is the Solicitor General? Okay.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. Soljan Berberabe. During the fourth SONA, State of the Nation Address of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. on July 26, 2025, one of his most important disclosures was about the flood control projects that he referred to as, and I quote, palpak at gumuho, at yung iba guni-guni lang, end of quote. Likewise, he gave a fair warning when he said that, and I quote, kaya sa mga nakikipagsabwatan upang kunin ang pondo ng bayan at nakawin ang kinabukasan ng ating mga mamamayan, mahiya naman kayo sa inyong kapwa Pilipino, end of quote. He then continued in saying that, and I quote, mahiya naman kayo sa mga kababayan nating naanod o nalubog sa mga pagbaha, end of quote. And then he stressed further that, and I quote, mahiya naman kayo lalo sa mga anak natin na magmamana sa mga utang na ginawa ninyo, na binulsa nyo lang ang pera, end of quote. May I just ask, but before you proceed that, may I just, at least for your, slide number 14, using of course, the letters previously presented. This now, to me, should refer to, hindi yan, yung isa. Yan. Slide number 14 to 15, yan. Ayan po. Can you read it for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Uwahi, unprogrammed appropriations, huwag ibulsa.
So my question is, may I just ask, if you agree that funds for unprogrammed appropriations that are pocketed or stolen gives unprogrammed appropriations a bad name?
A very bad name, Your Honor.
Okay. So President Marcos Jr. in the same SONA actually provided a glimpse of budget reforms that he wants to put in place to address the abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds when he said that, and I quote, in the same SONA, therefore, for the 2026 national budget, I will return any proposed general appropriations bill that is not fully aligned with the National Expenditure Program. And further, I am willing to do this even if we end up with a reenacted budget. Hindi ko aprubahan ang kahit anong budget na hindi alinsunod sa plano ng gobyerno para sa sambayanang Pilipino, end of quote. May I just ask then, if you know, if President Marcos Jr. starting with the 2026 GAA actually made good his promise about initiating certain reforms in the budget process?
I believe so, Your Honor.
And particularly with respect to unprogrammed appropriations, what happened insofar as the current budget is concerned?
In regard to the, I think it was in the 2026 GAA that the President vetoed from originally eight purposes. There was a significant reduction, Your Honor, of the unprogrammed appropriations purposes.
Okay. Do you agree that if there are budget reforms that will be implemented, then this should cover not only unprogrammed appropriations, but also for program appropriations and automatic appropriations.
Yes,
Any
Your-
budget reform should
Yes.
cover all items. Do
Yes,
you
Your
agree?
Honor.
Okay. When the Constitution mentions about appropriations laws that must be enacted for the operation of the government for a fiscal year, there is no specific mention about dividing these appropriations into program, unprogram, or automatic appropriations. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is it correct to say that both the executive department, the latter through the NEP being submitted by the President, and the legislative department, the latter through the General Appropriations Bill, were the ones which determined the items in all GAAs? Is this not right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the Judicial Department encroaching then on the constitutional prerogatives of the Executive Department if the court declares unprogrammed appropriations as unconstitutional so that this could not be included in the NEP?
It is the humble submission, Your Honor, that it is not within the power of the judiciary to interfere in the power of the purse, with the exception of the power of the court under its expanded power to review, which is also very limited. And in the previous oral arguments that we had given the definition of what grave abuse of discretion is, we have also discussed what is the burden of proof that is required of the petitioners, which we submit that they have not satisfied the burden. And in fact, if I may say, most of the evidence and documents that have been provided in this case have been voluntarily provided by the respondents. Your
Okay.
Honor.
The submission of the NEP is a constitutional duty of the President, is it not?
The submission of the budget,
The budget, which is the NEP,
which is the NEP, Your Honor.
the President's budget. Yes, go ahead.
The requirement for the President refers to the submission of the BESF. And that is why the respondent's position is that the budget of expenditures and sources of financing would include the programmed appropriations and the automatic appropriations, while the unprogrammed appropriations are part of the NEP, which is for the purpose of complete report to the Congress of what will be the total appropriations for the year, Your Honor.
Okay. Are we also in the Judicial Department encroaching on the constitutional powers of the Legislative Department if we declare unprogrammed appropriations as unconstitutional so that this could not be included anymore in the General Appropriations Bill being prepared by the House of Representatives and which the Senate concurs or modifies through the committee reports coming from its Finance Committee?
It is our humble submission, Your Honor, yes, subject again just to the exception on the power of expanded review, which our position is that it does not amount to a grave abuse of discretion. There is no constitutional standard that is violated by the respondents in this case, Your Honor.
Okay. Can the funding for programmed appropriations be transferred to unprogrammed appropriations? If you know.
If it is the source of funding, Your Honor, I believe, no, I don't believe, but I know that the answer is no, because there are different sources of funding for the programmed appropriations, and they are targeted and they are committed by the executive, while the sources of financing for the unprogrammed appropriations are based on the special triggers identified in the GAA, Your Honor.
Okay. So likewise, can the funding for automatic appropriations be used to fund unprogrammed appropriations?
Technically, Your Honor, no, because, and I qualify technically because I always am reminded by our discussion with the DBM because of the cash management policy of the DBM that sometimes there is cash that is available and there is no longer a clear delineation of this is the cash that is coming from A and this is the cash that's coming from B. So, but technically, if it is just possible for the demarcation that this cash is coming from the identified sources under the BESF for the program, then the answer is yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is merging program appropriations and unprogrammed appropriations into one category, like singly program appropriations, financially sound?
I think, Your Honor, that it is not, because the unprogrammed appropriations entirely is based on something that the executive is not prepared to commit. And it is actually saying that it is not targeting, and the funding for the unprogrammed appropriations will be dependent on the excess of anyone in the non-tax revenue based on the latest GAA provision, Your Honor, because every year the triggers might also vary, Your Honor.
Okay. Year to year, although sometimes there are constant special provisions for unprogrammed appropriations. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Generally, what former Budget Secretary Jokno mentioned, generally they are the special triggers, Your Honor.
Okay. When it comes to unprogrammed appropriations, Congress has done at least three options. One, retain the amount in the NEP. Second, reduce the amount in the NEP. And third is increase the amount in the NEP. Of the three, which is more in line with what is provided in the Constitution regarding appropriation laws?
It is our position, Your Honor, that the unprogrammed appropriations are not part of what is required under the Constitution, and therefore the unprogrammed appropriations belong to the power of the purse, and therefore there is no violation or no standard that is being breached by Congress in the three possible actions for the unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
So you're saying that Congress can decide to do whatever pleases them based on their own judgment regarding the amounts in unprogrammed appropriations?
I think, Your Honor, that the triggers will be the realistic parameters whereby Congress can determine what is the most appropriate action. So it is our humble submission, and we all expect that each branch of the government would not be arbitrary, would not be whimsical in their actions. So even if those three actions are possible courses of action by the Congress, I think the realistic economic factors, the realistic condition presented by the executive to the Congress during the deliberation process would also be a guide for Congress to make a final determination, Your Honor.
Following the view of Secretary Jokno that the government knows best insofar as budget preparations are concerned, would you agree that among the three options, so long as Congress decides not to increase the amounts in the unprogrammed appropriations, that it would be the ideal one and more consistent with our constitutional provisions?
Your Honor, in my discussions with the House of Representatives, Your Honor, we were thinking of other alternative states of fact, Your Honor, that sometimes the executive perhaps would include purposes or items that are not in sync with what the Congress thinks are appropriate to be included in the budget, Your Honor. So if I may ask the kind indulgence of the court to also think of other alternative scenarios where, for example, there is a vindictive president that will limit certain purposes to his or her allies, or to purposes that are only viewed as important by his allies, and the Congress, being the representatives of the people, would be in a better position to know which are the purposes that they hope to find in the budget, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you aware on how fund releases or payments are made for programs, activities, or projects that are funded by public funds?
Your Honor, I have a general view, Your Honor, but the DBM would be in a better position to clarify the details, Your Honor.
Okay. If you know, is progress billing still the basis in releasing funds or payments?
Your Honor, may I confer quickly? Your Honor, the DBM representative confirms that yes, in infrastructure projects, it is still
Progress billings.
implemented.
Is it not?
Yes.
Okay. In these progress billings, if you know, are there receipts being attached as proof that there were really expenses for the progress in the completion of any PAP, like a flood control project?
The DBM secretary confirms yes, Your
So
Honor.
if you say that as of today, a particular flood control project is 60% complete, there will be receipts attached to prove that it is indeed 60% complete?
That should be the case, Your Honor.
So do you agree that strictly requiring that these progress billings be closely monitored, that it will help lessen, if not eliminate, the abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds for, among others, some program appropriations?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. In fact, the procurement laws, which we all know are very strict, and each agency is really doing its job to comply. I think our country has many laws, many regulations, many issuances from the departments, and if each person can just be honest and good public servants, I think, Your Honor, there will really be no problem.
Okay, that's why I guess you have to go back to the DBM as well as to the DPWH regarding these receipts that are supposed to be attached to any progress billing. I hope you're correct in saying that they actually attach it, because if these are really attached, then it's easy to know whether or not these are ghost projects, because receipts you can actually trace, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then perhaps you can look into that more closely, Madam Solicitor General.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Just my final query. May I know if any of the petitions pending now is asking to criminally punish those who prepared the NEP, who deliberated and voted on the GAB, and who signed the GAA and later implemented the provisions on the program appropriations?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chief Justice, I'm done with my interpellations. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Thank you
Your
as well.
Thank you, Justice Raul Villanueva. Considering it's past 12 o'clock in the court's clock, we will suspend the session and resume at 1:30 for lunch break. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the counsel for Erice and De Lima, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Good afternoon, Your Honors.
Okay. My questions will revolve around the power of the purse in relation to the unprogrammed appropriation. Justice Villanueva earlier asked you about the power of the purse, so I would like to continue on that line. Okay, what's your understanding of the power of the purse of Congress? Preferably if you can give jurisprudential support for it.
Your Honors, the power of the purse belongs to Congress to appropriate and decide what monies will be taken out of the Treasury and be spent on the projects of the for the operations of the government. It belongs to Congress because they are the representative of the people. It is symbolic because when Congress decides what money to appropriate and for what public purpose, it is as if it is the people who is deciding on how the taxpayers' money and all the income of the government will be spent, Your Honors.
What would be, how would you, can you give me the characteristic or the elements or the requisites for the exercise of the power of the purse?
The exercise of the power of the purse, Your Honor, is done by Congress as a legislative body. It does not belong to any member of Congress, but to Congress as a whole. The Constitution provides us with certain requirements that Congress must fulfill in exercising the power of the purse, Your Honors.
Okay, so when we, in relation to the unprogrammed appropriation, when Congress in the budget, in the GAA, include unprogrammed appropriation, would you consider it to be a full exercise by Congress of its power of the purse?
We humbly submit, Your Honor, that while it is an exercise of the power of the purse, it does not comply with the constitutional requirement, particularly what is found under Article 7, Section 22, on the sources of financing, Your Honor. Because unprogrammed appropriations, as we have seen in its structure right now, does not have that sources of financing.
So I'm going back to my earlier question. When you define the power of the purse, what are the requisites? Apparently, you mentioned now, on your latest answer, identification of the source is a requisite for the exercise, a full exercise of the power of the purse. Is that the correct interpretation of your answer?
The identification of the source belongs to the executive department, Your Honors, but the extent of that source is the guide of Congress in the exercise of the power of the purse.
So would you consider that to be a requisite for the full exercise of the power of the purse, for Congress to exercise it?
That they determine the extent of the sources of financing, no, Your Honors. But in exercising the power of the purse, they also go into the sources of financing. In fact, Your Honor, that is one, and maybe the early steps on the budget deliberations is they go through the items under the sources of financing identified by the DBCC, Your Honors, as to be what would be the revenue for the ensuing year, Your Honors.
Okay, let's go to the specific details of the unprogrammed appropriations. So when Congress in the past 3 years had allocated unprogrammed appropriation, so did they identify a certain item or several items where they identify the power, the unprogrammed appropriation? The identification of the unprogrammed appropriation or the identification of the project, is that already the exercise in itself of the power of the purse?
The identification itself, Your Honors, of what projects, activities, and programs to be included in the General Appropriations Bill is an exercise of the power of the purse, Your Honors, because it's an allocation of funds for public purpose. But we humbly submit, Your Honor, that the identification particularly on what should be included in the unprogrammed appropriations should not be dealt with, because in if we were to strictly comply, and we should, with the provisions of the Constitution, that unprogrammed appropriations has no place, Your Honors.
So what you're saying, if Congress allots or identify an unprogrammed appropriation and include it in the budget, that is a partial exercise of the power of the purse. It's not a complete exercise by Congress of its power of the purse, because there could be other matters to complete like the full exercise of the power of the purse. Let's go to specifics. Okay. Unprogrammed appropriations. Let us go to the 2023 GAA. The most popular, infamous probably, would be the public work projects or flood control. Okay. Have you gone over the budget for 2023?
We have done so, Your Honors.
Yes. So we have an unprogrammed appropriation for flood control.
Yes, Your Honor.
So there's an amount stated there.
A huge
right?
amount, Your Honor.
There's just a huge amount. When Congress included that in the GAA for flood control, that is identification of the project.
Just to be fair to the Congress also, the item is not necessarily flood control, but it can fall under...
There are other issues.
Yes,
there
Your
are other
Honor.
projects.
That is, Your Honor, an exercise of the power of the purse, an appropriation, because at least in that budget, in that instance, Your Honor, what they added under unprogrammed appropriations was taken out and deducted from the programmed appropriations, meaning the positive act of adding and also diminishing what is under programmed appropriations is an act and an exercise of the power of the purse itself.
In fiscal year 2023, there's this entry, priority infrastructure programs for roads, multi-purpose buildings, facilities, flood control, and water systems. That's around 145 billion. I don't know if my figures are right, but that is an allocation by Congress on an unprogrammed appropriation for flood control, etc. Now, this item, did Congress identify specific flood control throughout the country?
Under unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor, there is also a list, Your Honor, that will comprise certain projects that will fall under unprogrammed appropriations.
Let us go to specific flood control, meaning out of the 145 billion allocated for these infrastructure projects, including flood control, there's an amount allocated for flood control in certain municipality, another amount identified for another municipality. Is that how it was presented?
Not in the General Appropriations Act, Your Honor. It cannot be found, and since it is under unprogrammed, it is also not found in the NEP, Your Honor.
So when Congress allot money for the unprogrammed appropriation, it is a lump sum amount.
That is accurate, Your Honor.
It's a lump sum amount. So, but compared to a program appropriation identifies the details of the project.
Indeed, Your Honor.
Yes. So, however, in the program, they provide the list of the project, but the allocation is lump sum.
It is lump sum, Your Honor.
Okay. In the program appropriation, it was Congress who identifies the project and chooses what project should be implemented by providing funds.
They practically confirm, Your Honor, what was proposed in the National Expenditure Program by the Executive.
President.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Let's go to unprogrammed. So, in case of public works or in case of flood control, there's a list of flood control projects throughout the country that provide and and then later on, assuming there's a trigger, there's extra funds, who will identify among those projects that will be implemented or that funds will be allocated for implementation?
It will be the executive department, Your Honor.
Okay, so a basic difference there is this. In Congress, that aside from identifying or allocating money, the power of choice belongs to Congress. That's for appropriated programs. In unappropriated programs and program of appropriation, the choice belongs to whom?
To the executive department.
To
Your
the
Honor.
executive department. Now, my question now is, the power of choice, how would that be in relation to the power of the purse? Is it material that for the full exercise of the power of the purse, the power of choice should belong to the legislature?
It is material, Your Honor, because the power of choice cannot be delegated since it belongs to Congress. Therefore, as soon as the budget leaves Congress, whatever the contents of the bill is should be, Your Honor, merely implemented by the executive department, and in that case, they will be fulfilling their mandate to implement and enforce the law, not exercise a power that does not belong to them, which is the power of the purse.
Would you consider that to be a permissible delegation of power, legislative delegation of power?
It is not, Your Honor, because there is no dispute that the power of the purse includes the power to appropriate, which is to designate an amount, a determinate and determinable amount for a particular public purpose. If Congress is to assign it to the executive department by providing only a lump sum amount without indicating the specific public purpose on which the amount will be spent, then they are unduly delegating that power to another branch of government.
When we know under political or constitutional law, when we permissible delegation, as long as there are acceptable standards, that would be constitutionally acceptable. You don't find any standards which are acceptable here that would, validate delegation of the power of choice from Congress to the President?
As structured, Your Honor, in the assailed General Appropriations Act on the unprogrammed appropriations, it will not pass the test of delegation of powers, Your Honor.
Why?
The requisites, Your Honor, will be absent. That first, it must be complete. It is not complete, Your Honor, because as this honorable court has earlier stated, Your Honor, there are still items left for the executive to determine as to when and how the amounts will be spent, and among those items listed under appropriations, which will take precedence, Your Honor. And also, it will not pass also the second requirement, which is sufficiency of standards. In that is also required, Your Honor, that
are the triggers mentioned earlier for the release of the program of the funds, like getting the year itself? Would that not be the triggers that not be acceptable substance?
Conditions under the program appropriations, special conditions will not meet that, Your Honor, because those triggers are only with respect to if the amounts under program appropriations can be spent, but as to where those monies will go and when they will be spent and which aspect appropriations, those three conditions, Your Honor, do not provide the executive department.
So all of this would not amount to sufficient standard to justify delegation, valid delegation power.
We humbly submit.
Okay.
Just to add, Your Honor, apologies. Also, this is a perception that this constitutes undue delegation of legislative power for failing the completeness and sufficiency standard, Your Honor. And throughout these hearing proceedings, we also noted, Your Honor, that it has not been established when a particular appropriation or project under the UA should be prioritized, Your Honor. Hence, it's our humble submission, Your Honor, that this is unconstitutional for also violation of separation of powers and undue delegation of legislative powers, Your Honor.
I want to discuss further the term prioritization.
Yes, Your Honor.
So in program appropriations, Congress identifies the project and probably following years na yan. Yun ang prioritization on part of Congress. Now, you're saying when we delegate the power to the President, we give the President the power to prioritize.
Yes,
because
Your
he will choose among those projects sino ang bibigyan niyang priority. And you're saying that since the power of the purse includes the power to prioritize, in effect, what I'm saying earlier, the power of choice, therefore, when we give that to the President by way of delegation, it is unconstitutional. That's your argument.
Yes, Your Honor. It's your position.
That's your position. Okay,
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yeah, please.
Just to add, Your Honor, the power to prioritize is when exercised, Your Honor, with respect to program appropriations. Once appropriated, they are all in equal, those items are already equal in terms of having a cash cover, meaning at any point in time, the GAA is already the authorization to spend all of those items. However, in the under program appropriations, the battle, Your Honor, is within those items listed under program appropriations that they have to now compete with each other as to which item will be prioritized, as opposed to the program appropriations in which those listed there are already what the Congress chose to prioritize over items which are not listed under program appropriations.
So, in case of program appropriation, the prioritization belongs to the executive, and then kung may mga listahan doon, and then comes now, may pera na, there's extra funds that we can be used. It's the President now who have to identify it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, lahat ng politiko, lahat ng nationwide, na pag naka-identify yung kanyang public works or flood control sa municipality niya, lalapit siya kay executive, and lahat ng ibang executives, local executives, or DPWH nationwide, ganun din ang gagawin nila. Unahan na sila sa office ng President.
Regrettably, that has happened, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. I'll call the Madam Solgen, please.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Honors.
much, Your Honors.
To give the Madam Solgen the opportunity to give its own definition of the power of the purse. What's your understanding, Madam Solgen, of the power of the purse?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The power of the purse is also known as the spending power, and it refers to the power to appropriate funds for a specified public purpose. Under the Constitution, the spending power, called by James Madison as the power of the purse, belongs to Congress. The President may propose, but the final say on the matter is lodged in the Congress. The power of appropriation carries with it the power to specify the project or activity to be funded under the appropriation law, and it can be as detailed and as broad as Congress wants it to be, and that is a citation from Philconsa versus Enriquez, a 1994 case, Your Honor.
Right. I'll give the opportunity. Earlier, the counsel for Erice and De Lima gave their own definition of the power of the purse. Do you agree with their definition based on your definition, or if not, what's the difference?
I heard and I understood, sorry, Your Honor, because I was also
Okay.
trying to prepare for the question now. So I am not very sure if my recollection will be as precise as you would expect.
Okay. Earlier, they mentioned that the power of the purse include the identification of the item to be included in the unprogrammed appropriation, but they did not agree that the unprogrammed appropriation, but they said that the unprogrammed appropriation would not be a complete exercise of the power of the purse because the prioritization of the power of choice was given to the President instead of Congress as a requisite of the exercise of the power of the purse.
The position of
Wait.
Okay.
Counsel for Erice, tama ba yung sinabi ko? Is that how I interpret your answer? Okay, please.
The prioritization, Your Honor, for example, in the 2024-2025, at least in my notes, there is an instruction by Congress in regard to the priority. It is in the special provision, and if I may read, Your
Please.
Honor, notwithstanding the foregoing, the order of priority may be modified to support the funding of urgent or implementation-ready projects, which are, number one, based on commitments to international multilateral organizations. Number two, in furtherance of the Philippine Development Plan. Number three, the MTFF. Number four, the 8-point socio-economic agenda. And lastly, that those may be identified as key budget priorities. It has a similar provision, Your Honor, in 2025. And also in 2026, Your Honor. So the order of priority is, if Congress has intended that there should be a prioritization, it has been indicated in the
So Congress,
subject.
you're saying, provide for guidelines for the President to observe in case there would be extra funds and there's a need to allocate funding for the program appropriation, and this Congress provided that in the GA.
Yes, Your Honor. And it is also the position of the respondents that the ruling in Belgica case, which gave the guidance as to the validity of an item in an appropriation, which should comply with a single correspondence, there should be a single purpose and single amount for a single purpose, has been complied with by Congress subsequent to this guidance from the court, Your Honor.
Okay. I have this, some notes on the 2023 budget on the unprogrammed appropriation. And the unprogrammed appropriation for 2023 GA is 807 billion plus. You agree?
Your Honor, is it the 2024 GAA?
The 2024 GAA is, wait, 731. The DBM, can you confirm? For 2023, it's 807. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I confirm, because the subject of the petitions in this case, Your Honor, are 2024, 2025,
Okay.
2026. So we are ascertaining what is the amount for the 2023 GAA. Your Honor, your figure is correct. It's 807.
For 2024, it's 731 plus. Tama ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So, let us go to, I have some notes on the 2023. Similar situation naman yan, no? Sige. So, the biggest, there's a list here, and according to the highest to lowest amounts. So, we have support for foreign assisted projects, 344 million, priority infrastructure program for roads, bridges, multi-purpose buildings, flood control, water system, 145 billion, public health emergency benefits, 52B, priority social programs, 52, etc., up to prior years LGU shares at 14 million. So, mahabang listahan yan. Okay. Now, ang question ko dito is, once earlier mentioned, kung may trigger na tayo, no, may pera na dyan, additional taxes were collected, no? Saan pupunta yung pera?
Your Honor, in the instruction or the guidance on the order of priority will be followed by
Is that a
the
strict rule? Is that
executive.
mandatory? Meaning, if there's additional funding that came, the president or the executive decides that this should be used for payment of right-of-way. And under the 2023 GAA, 17.5 billion were allocated for that, unprogrammed. So pag may dumating na, let us say dumating na 50 billion additional funds, the president decides payment of right-of-way, bayaran yan. Nakalagay pa dito, repair, rehabilitation, expansion of Tacloban Airport Leyte, 2.225 billion. So sabi ni Presidente, dyan mo na yan. So out of the 50 billion, he identified, prioritized certain projects in the program appropriation. Dun is gastusin yung pera. And that is his sole discretion. Am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor. And I think that one mechanism that is in place would also be found in the DBM because in one of our oral sessions, DBM described that they have criteria as to which projects will be approved. They have to submit documents and show that they are ready for implementation. The term is shovel ready. So they have a list, Your Honor, of criteria. So, and the other aspect of the process is a department will check with the DBM, and the DBM will check with the DOF whether there is excess, and then they will have to ask for the documents in order to determine if they will be funded or not.
So, okay. So, the power of choice ngayon and the power to determine the priority belongs to the executive for unprogrammed appropriation.
Yes, Your Honor, because it is our position that the purpose is clear, the standards are clear, and so the executive implements.
So, if the president decides to implement the Tacloban Airport rehabilitation, feeling ng executive that is more given priority over let us say, the subway project. mas mauna pa dapat yung Tacloban Airport kaysa yung subway. Yun ang kanyang discretion eh. Because we, as you say, we give him that discretion.
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor, like in the case of Abacada Guro Party List versus Ermita, where the policy is also set by Congress, and as long as the standards are clear and the executive merely implements, then there is a determination, in fact, by the executive of whether the conditions are present in order to implement the law.
Okay. So let us say in a specific situation, the President identified among the unprogrammed appropriation the repair, rehabilitation, and expansion of Tacloban Airport, 2.2 billion. That's in 2023. Another one is repair, rehabilitation, expansion of Lawag International Airport, Ilocos Norte, 1 billion. Nandun yan sa 2023 GAA ang program. So kung si Presidente o the Executive allots money out of the additional funding that came in, that is a political decision wherein the Supreme Court cannot intervene. That's what you're saying.
Yes, Your Honor, and the Congress, if they have additional instructions, they will include it in their exercise of the power of the purse, just like in the GAA that I mentioned, that there are guidelines as to how to implement the projects.
Yeah, so therefore, this 807 billion for 2023 is basically a fund by the President where he exercise absolute discretion on where to bring in or to spend the money.
Subject to the mechanisms that it has also set up so that there will be no arbitrary or capricious implementation.
The one you cited.
Your Honor.
In the GAA.
Your Honor, I am citing the procedures or the processes that the DBM has been mandated to implement because they have criteria.
Let us go to the procedure. Okay, so there are several projects listed in the GAA for unprogrammed appropriation. So there would be additional funding. Now, since ang dami nito, kung ako ay isang mayor ng isang locality in Province 1, meron akong kasama dun sa unprogrammed appropriation yung flood control ko sa municipality ko. Okay? So, anong dapat gawin ko? Should I go to the DBM? DBM, may anong kang pera pala dyan eh. Pwede mo bang isama na yan yung project ko doon sa public works or flood control? Is that what's happening?
Your Honor, my understanding is that for example, if the fund is if the purpose refers to the implementation of the DPWH, then it is DPWH who would have the national list of projects.
Okay, so kung ako pala si municipal mayor, hindi ako diretso kay presidente, lapit ako sa aking district engineer o aking regional director, o yung project ko, pwede bang puntahan mo si DBM at dapat ito yung ma-approve? Ganun ba yun?
That is my understanding, Your Honor.
So, I'm just a mayor of a certain municipality, and there are thousands of municipalities all over the country. So all mayors, all congressmen will do the same.
Your Honor, there is a more structured process that the departments are also implementing. So, for example, for the Department of Justice, where OSG belongs in terms of budget matters, we have a process of how to propose our projects, activities, and programs to the DOJ. And as a department, there is an agreement as to what will be finally submitted to the DBM. And then when the GAA comes out, then each department is also already told as to this project has been approved for
No,
funding?
we're already in the post-execution stage. Meron ng additional pera dumating, no? Funds were collected already. Now, there's a list of program appropriations items. And then there are a lot of people who wants that project to be implemented from the additional funding. Lalapit sila kay DBM, di ba? As you said, that's the process.
DPWH, Your
If
Honor.
the agency is DPWH, DPWH will approach DBM, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, si DBM, ang daming papel na pumapasok sila asking for funding from the additional collection and to implement the program appropriation. Sino mag-approve nun? Sino pipili doon?
Your Honor, I think that the DBM already shared the process that they follow. They have a criteria as to which program will be funded first. So they are guided by
Is
that
the decision
guidance.
making until the Secretary of Budget? Does it go to Malacanang?
For the SARO, Your Honor, no,
Yes,
it's
they will
just
request for
the
SARO, right? To appropriate funding for that program appropriation item. So they will issue a SARO. So is that up to, in the decision making, not only in the signing of the SARO, in the decision making, in the prioritization of the project, does it reach Malacanang?
with regard to the SARO, Your Honor, it is only up to the Secretary of DBM.
So as to the other, identification of project, prioritization, who decides that?
The President, I think, has already delegated the identification, the implement, or the mechanism that the DBM has to observe in approving which projects has already been delegated to the Secretary. Your
So
Honor.
for purposes of the since, as you said, 2024, 25, and 26 tayo, di ba? Following, are you saying that the DBM faithfully complied with the guidelines when they approved the particular projects and they issued the SARO?
Based on on the documents also that that we submitted to the Supreme Court, so although we did not ask as to the detail of the projects, what we monitored and what we submitted to the court is if there was a request, if there is an excess in the budget, and if there is a corresponding SARO that was issued, Your Honor.
Okay. So, assuming that the SARO is, as you said, strictly up to the level of the Secretary. So, basically, the Secretary has a piggy bank amounting to 800 billion pesos in 2023. That's what you're saying?
No, Your Honor, because the funding sources are a big maybe if the triggers are
potentially 800 billion. As long as triggers come in, kicks in, up to the amount of 807 billion, that's the piggy bank of the Secretary of Budget in 2023.
Yes, theoretically, Your Honor, that is correct.
Okay. Now let us go back to the power of the purse. When all of these are done by the executive, wala na dito ang Congress. Di ba? Wala na dito ang Congress eh. Okay. Would that not be violative of the power of the purse?
It is our submission, Your Honor, that it is not because the power of the purse is to be limited also by the constitutional provisions. The parameters are the disbursement of public funds requires law. All appropriations bills must be initiated by the House. There is the prohibition against the President recommended appropriation and prohibition against the rider in the GAA. So the Congress is also guided, and the power of the purse, although the cases say it is full, it is plenary, and it can decide how much detail will go into the budget, and the Constitution also has provided that the form, the content shall be provided by law, which is again but the power of the purse lodged by
Obviously,
Congress.
the funds collected during the year from taxes are public funds. And the reason why there is a power of the purse, the reason behind the power of the purse, is that public money should be only spent after public deliberation by Congress. Naghihiling sa Congress Pinag-uusapan lahat ng appropriation sa budget. Dito sa executive, wala. Ang mag-uusap lang dyan, yung department, concerned department, in your case, you said DOJ or DPWH, and mga politiko. Sila lang. Walang participation ng public compared to in an program appropriation. So how could that be a valid exercise of the power of the purse? When you exclude Congress, we are in a representative Republican government. It's every citizen has a particle of sovereignty. Sila dapat ang mag-decide through their representative. In this case, nilipat mo sa executive yung panggasta ng pera in 2023, potentially 800 billion pesos. And apparently, because of this, nagkabulilyaso dyan sa flood control. So, how can you justify that you give the power to the executive? In effect, you're giving the executive department a piggy bank amounting to potentially 800 billion pesos.
But Your Honor, there are purposes under the unprogrammed appropriations which are lump sums, but which comply with a single correspondence that has been required by the Supreme Court in the jurisprudence. Now, also under the programmed appropriations, there are similar lump sums like contingent fund,
Yes.
and the same could exist, the same could happen, Your Honor. So, because the requirement that the Congress in its exercise of the power of the purse would be the parameters that are set by the Constitution and the guidance of the Supreme Court in the cases as to the specificity. The Constitution and the jurisprudence are not actually requiring that it be specific as we are discussing now. And that's why we are referring to the guidance of the court in Bellica as to what will make it a valid lump sum appropriation.
Okay, nabanggit mo kanina yung contingent. Wala na sana ako tatanungin, so I'll go back. That's a very interesting topic. Have you studied the historical yung allocation for unprogrammed appropriation? As mentioned earlier by Justice Villanueva, initially mababa yan, to suddenly nag-shoot up, di ba?
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
So we have now the administration of Marcos. Before, we have Duterte. Before that, we have Aquino, right? Now, ano bang pa natin dito? How can you trace the increase in the appropriation?
Yes, Your Honor, I confirm that there has really been an increase, a very big increase during the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025 in the unprogrammed appropriations, based on the explanations of Congressman Joey Salceda. Usually the increase is evident post a crisis, and in this case the COVID or the COVID pandemic is the crisis. As to the soundness of the decision that has been made, Your Honor, I am unable to explain.
Yeah, I understand COVID is really a big problem. But COVID was 2019 or 2020 until 2021. Hindi na umabot ng 2023 yan. No? But based on the data, compare mo yung 2022 to 2023, I think it's a threefold increase yung allocation sa program appropriation. And there are items in the program appropriations which are new compared to the historical program appropriations. So halata talaga, nagsingit sila ng items ang program. Pinataas talaga nila yon. Do you agree with me?
I would not have any basis to say, Your Honor, as to was it deliberate, was it intentional, or what was the policy behind the decision, Your Honor. But it is really a significant increase, and I am just able to imagine that if all the infrastructure projects were implemented correctly and really the flood control projects were implemented, I don't think that we will be in this in this venue now. So, and my point being, if the Congress decided to add, for example, to infra spending, and the execution was a proper execution, then I don't think that there will be no question on the constitutionality.
That's a lot of if. And if we rely on our people, elected officials, to be, executed in good faith, and kawawa ang Pilipinas niyan. No? So, our experience would tell us that may hirap umasa sa ganun. Now, I'll go to my last question. No? The logic behind ang program appropriation is because you want to spend money that came in already. Diba? That's the reason why before, we provide certain items on foreign assisted projects. Sayang naman kasi, no? Pag pumasok na yung pera, wala tayong counterpart fund, hindi ma-implement. Gagastos tayo ng contingent, commitment fees, di ba? Okay. But if you go to the 2023, 24, 25 ang program appropriations, lahat doon, karamihan doon ng project, hindi emergency. Hindi emergencies. What logic should it be in the program appropriation in 2023? Rehab ng Lawag International Airport. How could that be an emergency? That's a long-term project. You could include that in the program appropriation. Bakit mo sinasama sa program at tatanggalin mo ibang funding sa program appropriation? So, second, if we admit that, are we impliedly admitting that both houses of Congress, wala silang ginagawa? Kasi, ang pwedeng gawin, mag-pass ng special budget, di ba? Trabaho nila yan. If there's additional funding, let Congress pass a special budget to allocate that. What's the problem with special budgets? Matagal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Matagal. Can we not, if Congress, members of Congress, senators, or congressmen knew that this project is a priority, and if they are responsible legislators, they will devote all time to pass it. Do you agree with me?
Yes, Your Honor.
So therefore, we should not doubt them. Tell them, ito priority ito. And the President can prioritize that legislation. Pwede nilang gawin. So there is no reason why we should include it in a program appropriation. Pwede naman nila gawin. Ang ginagawa lang natin, we got the power from Congress, gave it to the executive, and the executive now spends all this money without very strict guidelines. But the ones you mentioned earlier, for me, are not that strict. Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Soljan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Justice Ritchie, Justice Amy, please proceed.
Yes. Hello. Would you like to sit first? But I will call you again. Together with the Honorable Solicitor General, may I also ask for the representative, ASEC Angel, okay, to please guide the Solicitor General if she so needs your guidance. Good afternoon, Madam Solicitor General.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, ASEC Angel.
Good afternoon.
All right. My first question is, in the release of funds for a specific item found under both programmed and unprogrammed appropriations, does the DBM combine these amounts to ascertain the limit of the total funds to be released?
There is a general provision under use of government funds that provides that if there's multiple funding, the release should be within the total project cost.
Yes, so you combine.
Yes.
All right. So, for maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation of infrastructure facilities, or the routine maintenance of national roads, under the 2024 GAA, the programmed appropriation was 1.6 plus billion. Okay. And then it was repeated in the unprogrammed appropriation, where it carried 3 billion appropriation. So a total of 4.6 billion. But it appears that in the 2024 allotment releases, DBM released a total of 13.5 billion, or an excess of 10.5 billion. Oh no, an excess of 8.8 billion. Why the excess?
Your Honor, if I may posit an interpretation of that, the purpose which the Justice has mentioned is routine maintenance of national roads. So it is some sort of generic PAP, so it does not refer to a specific project.
Correct. But then, yes, this is a specific item under the GAA 2024, both unprogrammed and programmed, and the total was only 10.5 billion. No, 4.6 billion rather. But we released 13.5 billion. So where did we get that money when the total appropriation was only 4.6?
I do not have the specific transactions here with me, Your Honor, but it could be the exercise of savings and augmentation during budget execution that would result in higher releases for a specific PAP.
Is that allowed when the items were very specific under the GAA?
As a general rule, the Constitution provides that funds should be released for the purpose for which it was appropriated. However, in exceptional circumstances, there could be a declaration of savings from PAPs which have already been completed or abandoned or discontinued, and the savings could be used to augment existing deficient items.
So that's post-enactment transfer?
This is within the constitutional bounds, Your Honor, on exceptional cases lang po.
Exceptional? What are those exceptional cases, for example?
For savings po, the declaration of savings would have to be dependent on the agency determination that the project has already been completed or abandoned or discontinued.
So
Your Honor.
please submit to the court the funding for the excess of 8.8 billion outside the item for which the amounts were appropriated by Congress.
DBM will comply.
All
Your
right.
Honor.
Then there's another one, cold storage expansion projects. Under the 2024 GAA, only 500 million. And then under 2024 GAA unprogrammed, another 500 million. But we actually released 1.5 billion. So there is an excess amount of 500 million. Is your answer the same?
Yes, Your Honor. We can provide the data for the same.
Yes. Now, under the item public health emergency and allowance for healthcare and non-health care workers, the program appropriation was 19.9 billion. Under unprogrammed, 2.3 billion. But our appropriation was, or the actual release was 22.3 billion. So, or an excess of 5 billion. Do you have the same answer for that?
I will have to verify, Your Honor. I apologize. I don't have the specific transaction. But it could also be sourced from the SAGIP purpose under the unprogrammed appropriation.
You know, in 2024, the DOH requested 27 billion, the same amount that was released in 2025 to settle. According to the DOH, we need this in 2025 to settle all unpaid claims for health emergency allowance of healthcare workers. But the DBM publicly announced that the DOH need not wait for 2025 for the release of such funds. In DBM's press release on July 4, 2024, then Budget Secretary Pangandaman said, kahit sa 2025 pa ito hinihiling ng DOH, sinikap po ng DBM na mas maaga itong tuparin dahil deserve po ito ng ating mga manggagawa sa health sector. So, what was the possible funding beyond what was appropriated under 2024?
There was a purpose under the unprogrammed appropriations called SAGIP, strengthening assistance for government infrastructure and social programs. It could be that the FEBA, the Public Health Emergency Benefits Allowance, could be sourced from SAGIP as an social
Yes,
project.
I just got reminded that SAGIP is an all-catch clause. All items can be included in SAGIP. Very much apt for the name given. All right. I'd like to ask the Solicitor General whether in releasing funds in excess of what was specifically provided under the GAA, the government actually applied Special Provision Number 15 of Unprogrammed Appropriations of the 2024 GAA, which provided that the DBM was authorized to approve the use of amounts under the purposes of the unprogrammed appropriation to cover deficiencies in the amounts authorized in any of the purposes under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Did you apply this? Yes, to justify the release of funds in excess of the sums actually appropriated for the item.
Your Honor, sorry, I thought I was just confirming that this is part of the GAA. May I ask ASIC Angel to answer your
Yes.
question, Your Honor?
In the example given earlier on the public health emergency benefits, I would posit that this was not used because the release of the FEBA could also be sourced from the SAGIP, so there was no need to cross from one purpose to another when it
Yes,
comes to
was there ever an instance where the DBM crossed?
May I ask for some time to validate the specific transactions?
Yes,
And
all right. That's all. You're both excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's it, Justice Javier. Thank you very much.
Chief, thank you very much.
I have few questions for the petitioners. Can you hand them the microphone so they don't have to come to the rostrum? Please show slides 1 to 3. Okay. This was the deliberation on April 7. So let me start my question. During the April 7, 2026 and June 9, 2026 oral arguments, petitioners Erice and De Lima in GRE 04036 speaking through their counsel's attorney Peña and Soriano stated that the program appropriations are unconstitutional as a whole. Furthermore, during the June 2, 2026 oral arguments, the same petitioners now speaking to their counsel, Attorney Soriano declared that only program appropriations are constitutional. However, Attorneys Tanyada and Barreda positions on behalf of Petitioner Lagman is that UAs are not unconstitutional per se. Remember that, Attorney Barreda? So I'm interested to learn the positions of other petitioners in this matter. May I hear from the counsel of Pimentel and Alvarez?
Your Honor, I was reading the slides, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I know the question again, Your Honor?
The question is, what is your perspective with respect to the statement of Attorney Barreda that an program appropriation is not per se unconstitutional?
Your Honor, I refer to the last 3 paragraphs of our petition, Your Honor.
Okay.
So, let me just read it, Your Honor. And this, I think, summarizes our position to the constitutionality of unprogrammed appropriations. So, instead of bloating the unprogrammed appropriations in the General Appropriations Act and exceeding the original level of the proposal of the President as contained in the President's budget, Congress should observe the principles mentioned in Article 6, Section 25(4) of the 1987 Constitution and wait for funds to be actually available or be very clear and propose particular revenue-generating measures for the appropriations, Your Honor.
So in other words, your view is that unprogrammed appropriations is per se unconstitutional?
Yes, Your Honor, based on the paragraph, Your Honor.
What about the petitioner for FPJ, FPM? What's your perspective on
Good
this?
afternoon, Your Honor. As to petitioner FPJPM, we have no position on the issue of unprogrammed.
You have no position?
Yes,
Okay,
Your Honor.
whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional?
Yes, Your Honor. Because our
I'm asking these questions basically because all these petitions were filed under Rule 65 in relation to the expanded power of judicial review on
Yes,
the basis of grave abuse of discretion purportedly committed by the respondents. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about Attorney Peña?
Your Honors, we maintain our position that the unprogrammed appropriations as a whole is unconstitutional.
As a whole.
Yes, Your Honor. For
Let's go to slide 4 and 5, please. Furthermore, petitioners Irice and De Lima, speaking to their counsel, Attorney Peña, and petitioners Pimentel and Alvarez, through counsel, Attorney Salenga, during the April 7, 2026 oral arguments, explained that UAs are not valid appropriations as they do not have an identified concrete source of funding. Is this view shared by other petitioners who take the position that UAs are unconstitutional as a whole? Attorney Barreda?
Your Honor, it is our position, Your Honor, that the unprogrammed appropriations, again, is not unconstitutional per se, because it is also our position that if the unprogrammed appropriations will be used in good faith and it will be and if treated as a contingent budget, Your Honor, and it is within the recommended budget of the President, we are in the position that it is constitutional, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you,
With
Your Honor.
respect to the issue that raised by petitioners Irice and De Lima, that UAs are riders because they are not related to any particular appropriation. What's the view of other petitioners? Attorney Salenga, what's your view? They are riders.
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor. I would have to agree with my co-petitioner's position, Your Honor.
Does it constitute a rider?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Please pose slide number 10. Okay, Attorney Soriano said during that April 7 oral argument that Congress may propose new programs, activities, and projects, provided that the total amount of appropriation does not exceed the amount proposed by the President, and that appropriations for the new PAPs are specific, definite, and for a particular public purpose. In the April 26 oral arguments, petitioners Irice and De Lima again reiterated the same position and stated that Congress may add new programs provided these are funded from those with sources. As shown on the screen, they have been consistent. Meanwhile, during the April 27, 26 oral argument, Petitioner Lagman, speaking to Attorney Barreda, stated that Congress may not enact, as it would increase the President's budget in violation of Article 6, Section 25, Paragraph 1 of the 1987 Constitution. In the turn of events, however, on June 2 oral arguments, Attorney Barreda answered that the bicameral conference committee may insert new provisions to the Senate and lower house versions of the appropriation bill, so long as the committee respect the constitutional limitation imposed under the Constitution. May I now ask Attorney Barreda to reconcile these statements?
Your Honor, may I please clarify that I stand with the first statement. I propounded that statement during my time in my opening statement. This June 2, 2026 was propounded by Attorney Tanyada, Your Honor. It was not me who propounded this
So you're withdrawing
answer.
the statement on June
Yes,
2?
Your Honor. I did not made mention of this one, Your Honor. It was Attorney
What about
Erin
the other
Tanyada.
petitioners? What's your view on the power of Congress to enact new PAP not proposed by the President? Any one of the petitioners' counsel?
For petitioner FPJPM, Your Honor, we are of the view that the Congress may not increase the appropriations recommended by the President, as stated in the NEP, Your Honor, respecting the separation of powers. In addition, Your Honor, the budget initiation is with the executive, while the budget authorization phase is lodged with the Congress, Your Honor.
Question. Anyone can answer from the petitioners. You say that Congress cannot increase the budget proposed by the President under the NEP, right? That's your position. However, in a situation where the Congress, for example, in the NEP, it was proposed that 500 million should be appropriated for public health services. But in the view of Congress, it should be increased to 800 million. Can Congress not do that? Attorney Peña.
Congress may validly do so, Your Honors. One of the limitations is the budget ceiling, which applies to the entire appropriations. The bottom line, yes, Your Honor.
Budget.
Yes, Your Honor. So any increase to be made by Congress, in this example, should be deducted from other items in the appropriations, Your Honor, to maintain and comply with the provision against the violation of the ceiling, Your Honor.
So you speak of the total budget proposal that cannot be increased by Congress.
Yes, Your Honors.
But Congress is free to adjust the figures within that amount, within that total.
For petitioners Erice and De Lima, Your Honor, that is our position. Congress may do that, Your Honor.
What about the other petitioners?
Your Honors, for FPJPM, it is our humble position that the Congress may reallocate to certain government agencies, but it cannot exceed the total national expenditure program as recommended by the President.
Attorney Salenga.
I agree with my co-petitioners, Your Honor. As long as it does not exceed, Your Honor, the proposed budget by the President, the Congress can reallocate, Your Honor, such amounts.
Attorney Barreda.
It is also our position, Your Honor, that the Congress may do that because it is also stated in the petition by the late Congressman Edsel Lagman that the Congress has the power of the purse, and that is included in the definition of the power of the purse, Your Honor.
What do you mean by total political questions? Attorney Barreda. Totally political questions.
Total political questions, Your Honor, is these questions will not need a judicial intervention, Your Honor, for it can be decided solely by the people, Your Honor.
So in other words, there should be judicial restraint, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When is this possible? When should this situation arise? Any counsel for the petitioner?
Your Honor, as an example, Your Honor, purely political will be the right to vote, Your Honor. If it involves the election, Your Honor, or the referendum, then such would be a political question, Your Honor.
Isn't it that when you speak of the truly political question, it involves the question of wisdom and not the legality of the act involved, correct? Attorney Barreda?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So once the court determines that the issue involved is truly political, the court should refrain from ruling mainly for two reasons. What are the two reasons why the court should exercise judicial restraint?
One, Your Honor, is that that is a purely political question, Your Honor. And the other one, Your Honor, is there was no grave abuse of discretion committed by the respondents, Your Honor.
Okay, you speak of the grave abuse of discretion. Madam Solicitor General, what do you mean by grave abuse of discretion?
Grave abuse of discretion, Your Honor, is judgment exercised in a capricious and whimsical manner that is tantamount to a lack of jurisdiction. To be considered grave, the discretion must be exercised in a despotic manner by reason of passion or personal hostility and must be so patent and gross as to amount to an evasion of a positive duty or a virtual refusal to perform a duty enjoined by or to act at all in contemplation of law. And I cite that definition, Your Honor, from the case of D. Somangkop versus Secretary of Department of Public Works and Highways, a 2004 case, Your Honor, by Justice Tina, among others.
Why do you think there is that authority or given officials and offices are given discretion?
The officials are given discretion, Your Honor, because they have been entrusted by certain powers, delimited also under the Constitution, and the leaders should be given discretion so that there will be smooth and expeditious actions as well in government.
Or to provide some kind of elbow room and flexibility.
Yes, Your Honor.
To be able to act and perform their function, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why is abuse of discretion permissible?
What I could say, Your Honor, is that the Constitution expects that everyone that is given a power should use it not in a capricious, not in a whimsical, not in an arbitrary manner. In fact, there is an expectation, Your Honor, to use sound judgment, to be fair, to always think of what is just for the society. So, but the Constitution also, I must say, does not expect perfection on the leaders, and that is why when there is abuse of power, the Constitution also provides for the mechanisms to check such abuse of power, Your Honor.
So the check comes in only when there is grave abuse.
By this court, Your Honor, only when there is grave abuse of discretion.
So how do you reconcile the constitutional provision giving such plenary power to Congress with respect to budget, how it is to be done, how much should be spent, so on and so forth under the Constitution? So within that parameters, if Congress acts according to that provision, can they be subjected to this grave abuse of discretion?
Yes, Your Honor. And that's why when I was answering also Justice Villanueva, that expanded power to review has been in our Constitution, which isn't present in the, for example, in the U.S. Constitution. So if a political branch is given that power, if there are textually demonstrable standards that could guide the court in assessing if there has been grave abuse of discretion, then that is the situation, Your Honor, that the honorable court could evaluate on whether there has been grave abuse of discretion.
Okay. Justice Cole earlier mentioned about the questioning the petitioners and also you, the power of the purse, and you explained it. What about The power to control the purse. What do you mean by that?
The power to control the purse, Your Honor, would be will be lodged in the Constitution, and so that's why the Congress will have to be delimited in its power and be mindful of the constitutional provisions, and that is what we have endeavored to provide in our pleadings, Your Honor. We identified which constitutional provision is relevant to the power of the purse, and it is our submission that there is no violation of the constitutional standards or requirements, although based on our discussion, there has been, we could say, unsound decisions that have been made but which are not legal to our, based on our submission, Your Honor.
So going back to that grave abuse of discretion which should require judicial intervention, what should be the, when can you say there is grave abuse? Malubha o malala ang abuso sa discretion?
Your Honor, there comes to mind like when the Constitution, for example, has a clear instruction, but the branch that has been given that power does not exercise it, or there are parameters that have been defined by the Constitution, but the actions of the political branch seem to disregard, which could not be found as acceptable by reasonable minds, then those that is an example of grave abuse, Your Honor.
Assuming for the sake of argument that the court finds a grave abuse of discretion in the UA provisions for 2024 to 2026 GA, how far can the court's power of judicial review go?
It is our humble submission, Your Honor, that that the Supreme Court or that this court will look at the parameters, will closely look at the parameters which are relevant to the power of the purse, and we are hopeful that you will see that there is no violation, Your Honor, of the textual standards provided in the Constitution. So I'm sorry, Your Honor, I could not say for up to what extent will be the grave abuse of discretion finding, Your Honor.
The court finds grave abuse of discretion on the part of respondents. Can the court give guidelines on what Congress should consider when it decides to change the amounts of the PAP proposing the NEP?
Your Honor, it is our position that if there are no textually demonstrable standards that may be used by the court to evaluate the actions of the political branches, then the guardrails, which I think all of us will agree that there should be in this case, must also come from the political branches. And the executive has already taken courses of action in the 2026, as well as the legislature, Your Honor. They have also undertaken steps to course correct.
You spoke about guardrails. Please flash screen 42. Okay. It says the power of the COA there. Senator didn't mention COA earlier with respect to providing the checks on this, the use of UA, right? Are you amenable, or is it possible that we revert back to the practice of pre-audit? If you look at that article in the board,
Your Honor, I would surmise that the post-audit basis has been incorporated here in order to expedite the implementation of projects, but based also on practice, pre-audit basis is very, very helpful also for the departments because we do not want to be violating COA rules and regulations, Your Honor.
may I ask Secretary Jokno if pre-audit is a logical step as part of guardrails?
Your Honor, I think it is a major step backward,
Major step back.
pre-audit, because that means it is the COA that will manage the affairs of government. You cannot buy a cup of coffee without pre-audit, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that statement. Although it says there that COA is given authority to include temporary or special pre-audit as may be necessary. Would you not consider that also a step as provided in the Constitution? Specifically for specific transactions, not as a general practice, but for special transactions.
As a matter of example, Your Honor, in my experience, we adopted that after the EDSA 1 revolution, the post-audit, because my experience in running government is that you cannot do what you're supposed to do without going to COA. And that is a major constraint. For example, we are involved in constructing multi-billion railway system. Can you imagine if you have to go to COA for approval of every step of the way? That will certainly delay the implementation of very important projects.
The use of technology, AI.
But then you can also, you have to trust the chief executive or his the secretary or undersecretary.
Because I heard during the oral argument that the sheer volume of transactions is putting either the DBM or the COA to check.
Yeah, the DBM can also use the AI if necessary. You don't have to go to COA. And also, in this flood control mess, you also understand that COA is involved here also.
Okay.
So,
What about the use of drone to do inspection of site construction?
in fact, I have advocated that during my term as budget secretary, where we have to monitor projects in the mountains. That's usually not easy to do, right? So you need drones to do that.
Perhaps the Solicitor General can make representations for Congress to legislate some guardrails using technology and other things that will be able to address the concerns that we are facing right now.
Yes, Your Honor, I have been relaying also some observations and some instructions from the Honorable Court, both to the Executive and to the Legislature, Your Honor.
I have a question from DBM, just one question from DBM representative. What's the role of RDC in budget preparation?
It could provide the alignment necessary between the local priorities and the national priorities.
Okay. And the RDC, one of the members should be members of Congress of the district, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So in other words, in the preparation of the budget at the inception, there's already an involvement of the legislative, right?
In the planning phase.
In the planning. And the congressman will tell the RDC the requirements of their district, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So if at the turn of the process of the budget, the congressman suggested to the RDC that these are the priority projects in my district, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So when the NEP is prepared and he does not see in the item of his projects in his district, he'll get mad, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
He will insist that it be included, right?
Yes, Your
Either
Honor.
in the program or at least a done program, correct?
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
that is the reason why there is unprogrammed if it cannot be accommodated in the program. Is that correct?
I can see that as a possibility.
Senator Drilon is nodding his head. Is that the process, Senator? Sorry.
Well, in theory, Mr. Chief Justice, the congressman is supposed to attend and have his inputs in the regional development councils. On the ground, the practice is the congressman would ignore the regional development council on the theory that he possesses the power to review the submissions of the executive to Congress and exercise his policy-making power to check on the executive submission, which includes the submission of the RDC.
Yeah. So he has the power when the NEP is presented already to form part of the
Yes.
JAB. That's the time he will exercise his power.
Sorry, sir?
When the NEP is presented, that's the time that the congressman can get even if his projects are not included.
That's correct, sir. And the justification is that as a member of the policy-making body, I am entitled to have my inputs in terms of policy, and the inputs will include allocation of funds. So that is why that setup really, sir, would result in the RDC's recommendation being ignored by Congress.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
That's the
Senator.
reality, sir.
So no more questions. Thank you. So we conclude today's oral arguments. Thank you to the lawyers, petitioners, counsel, especially to the amicis. Thank you for your participation. So please make this as an order. Parties and amici are given a non-extendable period of 20 calendars from today to submit their memoranda on all the issues raised in the pleadings and other related issues covered in the interpellations. Respondent government is reminded to submit remaining requested manifestations, documents, and certifications within a non-extendable period of 15 calendars from today. Copies should also be provided to the opposing parties. All the parties are reminded that the court will decide on this urgent case based on their own timeline, considering the manifestations of the amici, and that the GAA 2027 will soon be tackled by Congress, regardless of whether the parties comply with the periods we have provided. So ordered. Attorney Maripe, are there any other matters?
There are no other matters, Your Honor.
There being no other matters, the session is adjourned.